And as we sit here on May Day, the Orioles are sitting in first place in the AL East. The team that experts projected to dwell in the cellar all of a sudden has the best record in the division. So enjoy the ride, O's fans. Winning baseball is here. It's the Orioles on Masson at Camden Yards in Baltimore, where a shower has just gone through. It's the O's and Chicago White Sox. Today it's the finale of this four-game series. And Nicole McFadden talking with the skipper, Buck Showalter. Looks like we're going to have an on-time start. And hi, everyone. I'm Jim Hunter. And for the Orioles, today is a day to turn the page. Turn the page on a tough 8-7 loss last night, but also turn the page on the month of April, which was very successful. The Orioles hoping now to build on that as we turn the calendar to May. And looking at the numbers in April, the Orioles, a first-place team, played very, very consistent baseball. Orioles went 14-9 with a team ERA of 3.63. Starter ERA a bit higher than they would like, but it was getting better as the month came to a close. Team batting average second best in the league. They lead the world in home runs with 34 and averaging 4.7 runs per game, a very good average to win a lot of ball games. So, Jim, the month of April now complete, very successful. Now what you do, May 1st, start another good month and keep it going.
Well, that's what you'd like to do. Last year they were 10-10 in April. They were 13-16 in the month of May. Their best month was June, 18-10, 14-13, I think, in August, and then had a real good October to get to 500. So the good teams, they usually have at least 4 to 5 winning months. Orioles get off on the right foot. They've hit starter. You saw the ERA at what? Higher than you want, but it's come down. The last 6 starts have been pretty good for the starters, and I think that Mr. Jimenez better be pretty good today because Chris Sale's pitching for the White Sox. He's 5-0. So again, you want to get off on the right track. It's a tough day though because of the rain. And, I think for everybody involved, but especially the pitchers, because you're trying to get a good foot and get good driving, and maybe that'll affect Sale, and maybe that'll be just what the Orioles need.
Well, the Orioles in this series, they really have swung the bats. The White Sox have the best pitching in the league, but in this series, the White Sox ERA way over 6.
Well, it is, and the Orioles, if you make mistakes, we saw Latos last night. He was 4-0. He's not a power pitcher. Rodon actually pitched pretty well, but the 1-3-run home run in a situation where I think he thought Nolan Reimold was bunting on Friday night. So, again, today's going to be a tough game because the White Sox, that we've seen their pesky team, they've scored 50% of their runs this year. We saw it last night, 7th inning on. But the Orioles could score at any time. The interesting thing, Ubaldo Jimenez, he went from 6-9 his first year, but the one thing he can do, he loves to pitch here since June of 2014 when he pitches. He's 10-2, so let's see how that plays out today.
Yeah, we'll see if the Orioles are resilient after a tough loss last night late in the game. We're coming back to the yard. Lineups and first pitch are next. On Masson is brought to you by Southwest. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. And by T-Mobile. Get Major League coverage. T-Mobile has doubled its 4G LTE in the last year. Another damp day at Camden Yards. It was pouring this morning. Here's our BGE home game time temperature of 54 degrees, 88% humidity. BGE Home is Baltimore's home team for heating, cooling, plumbing, and electrical. Why would you call anyone else? There's the slight breeze out of the east-southeast. And here's the White Sox lineup for today's finale. Adam Eaton in that leadoff spot, a career .333 hitter here at Camden Yards. And his drag bunt single in the ninth inning got the Sox going for their winning rally. Sanchez, Abreu, and Frazier with Cabrera and Wright. Then Laurie, Sands, Navarro, and Jackson.
So Ubaldo Jimenez, he's coming off a tough loss down in Tampa. Pitched very well, gave up the game-winning home run to Kevin Kiermaier on an 0-2 pitch up and in, hit it down the right field line, but again has pitched pretty well. Much better here at Camden Yards because he only has one start, and that was a very good one, and that was the first series of the year against Minnesota. So you can see lefties hit him pretty well. They only have 4 left-handers in the lineup today, so we'll see. I mean, to me it's a matter of, number one, does he get the low strike, and number two, does he throw enough of those? Because when he has that low strike going, he could use the changeup and the split-fingered fastball.
And strike one, and we're underway.
Well, actually, that's maybe he gets the high strike.
The crew chief Jerry Davis has the plate today.
Because you know what Adam Eaton wants to do, which is what he's done, is just get on base. And I mean, he's an ideal leadoff guy because of the on-base percentage, but almost 37% of the time, and then he can steal the base. And we saw last night that heads-up play to bunt on Zach Britton. And there's a good changeup. That's the one thing we saw from the last 4 innings. I'm talking about innings really 3 through the 6th inning were excellent. He used his curveball, used his changeup. He's got a splitter. That acts as take the off-speed pitch. There's another one. But what we also seen the White Sox do is when you get ahead of them, they just kind of poke the ball away and expand really the at bat by cutting down on their swings.
And he got him. Looked like a real good splitter. So Eaton down on strikes and one away in the first.
Yeah, it seems like everything hard that the Orioles have thrown him, he'll peck and foul away. But this is good splitter. You read it. A lot of times you want to throw this ball down and away. I think it actually fools him because he didn't want to give up on it because it's probably going to hit the inside corner, and then it just tumbles out of the zone. Terrific pitch.
Ubaldo has really had the strikeout pitch working this year, Jimmy's averaging 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. And a K to begin the game. There's Carlos Sanchez getting a start at shortstop. Jimmy Rollins for a second straight game not out there.
Well, I think if you're Robin Ventura, you looked at that, what do left-handers hit against, even though Rollins is a switch hitter.
Scope plays the in-between hop and 2 quick outs.
Take a look at the Oriole defense. It came in the second best defense, and you could see last night 2 errors in the 3rd inning, only 2 in the previous 10. So Reimold, Jones, Rickard, that's the outfield. Machado. That's his brother Manny playing third. Machado, Hardy, Scope, and Davis, and then Caleb Joseph doing the catching.
It's damp.
No, it's the day game after the night game.
But you're in Everybody the Hall of Fame. You thrived on that.
I understand that, but I'm not pitching today. Everybody uses that as an excuse. I'm going with it.
Here's Abreu. He has 5 hits to right field in this series, including last night's 2-out RBI single to right that got Eaton him with the tie-breaking run.
And his average is up almost 40 points. He came in on Thursday night at 190. So again, a lot of hitters, they try to swing harder, but he's actually, not that he can't hit home runs, 30 last year, 36. He stayed inside the ball. He's been patient. Boy, and you can see the approach. I think unless you get ahead and you can pound him in, out over the plate is one of his strengths. And you can see by the 11 hits to right field already this year.
Roller towards third. It's a foul ball. That would have been a tough play, man. He was deep.
Yeah, Abreu, for a big guy, actually runs pretty well. I'm not saying he's a speedster by any means, but he gets down there and he runs hard. And that's one of the things that.
Well, in this series, we have seen that this White Sox team, they are very close. Robin Ventura has them playing very good team baseball. And the Orioles have that phrase of passing the baton. Well, the White Sox certainly do that as well.
Well, that's what good offensive teams do. They trust each other offensively. If you don't get the job done, but you can get on, maybe the guy behind you will pick you up and he tries to come in, which is where you'd like to go. And then the other fact that, you know, now Abreu, I mean, he still had a good year last year with 100 RBIs, 30 home runs, 290. The average dropped a little bit, but now he's got Todd Frazier protecting him. And he's already hit 2 home runs in this series.
3-2 to Abreu is a little low. Appeal, he didn't go. So there's a 2-out walk.
Yeah, so you throw that same pitch last year, and if you walk him, the consequence was that was probably be Adam LaRoche, who underperformed. A 2-year deal. Actually got out of baseball for personal reasons, and now all of a sudden you go over and make the great trade. You get a guy that with a bona fide power, Todd Frazier. Thought he explained it pretty well. He said, listen, you know, Darren O'Day last night kept throwing me sliders away, and I finally got a fastball out over the plate, and I hit a big fly ball that went over the wall and was a 2-run home run. That's pretty much what happened. You can see they pitched him well, but when he's gotten hits, Tyler Wilson the first night on a curveball, and last night
towards the hole. Hardy deep in the hole. The long throw across. Scoop by Davis. And Frazier's retired. What a play on both ends to end the top of the first. So a 2-out walk and 1 left. Hardy to Davis to end the first. At Camden Yards, but the fans came prepared. They have on their ponchos. We'll head to the bottom of the first. Here's the Orioles Southwest Airlines starting lineup. Southwest, transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. Rickard Machado and Trumbo. Trumbo batting third today with Adam Jones in the cleanup spot. Then Davis, Hardy, and Reimold. Reimold this season, extra base hits in 5 of the 9 games he's had in at bat. Scope and Joseph rounded out.
And Chris Sale, lanky 6'6" lefty. #1 draft choice. So you can see fastballs, you know, get up to about 93, can maybe hit a couple ticks harder, and then changeups and sliders. So pretty equal balance. Boys, lights out. You can see 21 hits in 38 innings. Strikeouts down a little bit because it's kind of by design. You know, he set the all-time White Sox franchise strikeout record with 274 last year. But the second half of the year struggled a little bit. So Don Cooper said, okay, let's not max out.
Good idea, but he bunted it right back to the pitcher. So Rickard retired and 1 away.
Got to take a look at their defense. Cabrera, Jackson, and Eden. Eden already is one of the leaders in runs saved defensively. Around the infield, Frazier's made some nice plays. Carlos Sanchez gets called up, gets a big hit last night. Brett Laurie with a couple of home runs. Abreu with all the hits, and then the honor Navarro doing the catching again.
Here's Manny Machado, that .344 average, second best in the league. And he'll take ball one. Manny's got a 3-game hitting streak going, a hit in each game in this series.
Yeah, one of them a grand slam. 5 RBIs.
He also has 3 consecutive multi-hit games.
And there's the changeup, yeah, and he throws a slider. Sliders around. It's really not effective because it's so deceptive. But there's 91, and then he can move it up. And the plan with Don Cooper, the pitching coach, was okay. We're not going to throw every pitch max out, and it will be a little bit stronger in the second half of the season. Last year, 8-4 early on, 5-7. Of course, it wasn't a very good team, but the ERA up almost 2 runs a game. And he's ready to pitch.
Line to left field, and that's going to fall for a base hit. A breaking ball that hung up there, Manny didn't miss it. Let's get a look at our Jeep inside the numbers, and Chris Sale, lowest career ERAs in May, and Mr. Sale is at the top.
Yeah, last year he had suffered a broken foot in spring training, and so therefore he had got obviously a much slower start, and then so again it's a nice little ERA, and that translates into a 10-2 record.
Well, his ERA coming in 1.66, and that was 6th best in the American League.
Yeah, that's what it is in the month of May with a 10-2 record. That's pretty impressive.
And down and in 1-1. But Jim, how about this? He's won all of his starts. He's 5-0. In his last 3 starts combined, he's allowed 1 earned run. So for Sale, in his last 3 games, the ERA is 0.38.
And one of those games was Toronto.
Pops up the breaking ball. There's Abreu in foul ground. And 2 away on the Trumbo pop-up.
Yeah, he's 6'6", and he's a 3/4 almost sidearm guy. He steps right at you, whether you're right-handed or left-handed, and a little bit across his body. So there's the deception factor. A lot of movement.
Adam Jones in the cleanup spot today. See 4 out of 11 in the series. A couple of RBIs. Chris Sale with the 5 wins, tied for most wins in the league, and he also has pitched more innings than any other pitcher. Good cut by Adam there as he fouls it back. 3rd multi-hit game of the season last night. As Adam now with 7 RBIs off that RBI double. A little late on that swing, and it's 0-2. And for Adam, Jim, the timing is he's still trying to find it after missing the 6 games with the rib injury, where 6 games without an at-bat.
Yeah, and then he aggravated a little bit down in Tampa Bay on the swing, but then comes right back and says he's healthy.
For Sale out of Lakeland, Florida, he lasted until the 13th pick in the first round of 2010. He pitched at Florida Gulf Coast University, which is in Fort Myers. And Buck Showalter said, yeah, take a look back at that draft. A lot of the scouts 1 through 12, of course, the Orioles picked the runner at first base in that draft. Mr. Machado, he was the 3rd overall pick, but a lot of scouting directors were worried about Sale's slender build that he might wear down. Kind of reminds me of when Tim Lincecum was drafted out of college. All the scouts were fearful of that violent delivery, and he turned out okay.
Well, he won 2 Cy Young awards, but then all of a sudden his stuff went down dramatically, so maybe they were right. But Sale much bigger. I think just the fact that, and this is what Don Cooper, his pitching coach, said, hey, let's just not max out. But it seems to pitch under any situations and do it well.
That's a gutsy take there. It bent around the plate, but you never know the look the umpire is going to have. Full count with 2 down. Manny will be off with the pitch. And it's up and away, ball 4. What an at bat for Adam, Jim. He was down 0-2 in the count.
Well, the other thing about Sale, I mean, he can strike out people with the best of them, 8-6, 9-3-6, but very rarely. On only one of his starts has he walked 2 batters. Never more than that. Now, last night, will tie the game off of Zach Duke. Double up the gap.
5th multi-RBI game of the season, which leads the club. He is slowly finding his stroke. He's got a 3-game hitting streak going. And in his last 8 games, Jim, Davis is above 300 at 303 with 6 RBIs in those 8 games.
It just seems that the bat head awareness, in other words, where the bat head is, which is how you hit the ball, is much better. He said, I still don't think I'm swinging that well. That might have changed after last night because it's some awfully good at bats. And boy, out over the plate, not that you can't get him out there, but that is his strength. And we saw Zach Duke throw it by him up and in, 89, and then just the ball he hit was away.
Sweeps it towards second base. There's Laurie. Davis retired and Sale gets out of it. So a single, a walk, but 2 men left. We'll head to the second at Camden Yards. Sox and O's, no score. Here's a look at our Jeep inside the numbers. Pitches per innings, and Ubaldo on that list, as is Gallardo. In fact, Giovanni 17.6, leading in the major leagues, and Ubaldo, Jim, 16.8. But the thing about Ubaldo is he's very, very strong. He's durable, and the pitch count doesn't seem to affect him as it does other pitchers.
Well, I think that's just what you expect. You'd like to have him. I don't know if he'll ever get really much lower. I think it's last, 2 years ago, they was up in the 18s. So that's unacceptable because 5 innings is 90 pitches.
Strike 1 to Cabrera.
So Melky, one of those little semi slumps. Of course, if you play every day, 3 for 26 is not going to bother you. I think the one thing when you pitch against a Chris Sale, you know how good he is, but nothing really changes. All you want to do is be you. You just don't want to stay away from the big inning. You want to do that anyway. There's a nice pitch. So it doesn't put any more pressure on it because the only thing as a pitcher you can control is what you do. And Ubaldo certainly knows that.
Bounces the splitter in there. Well, Ubaldo has a streak going. 7 consecutive outings with at least 100 pitches. Showalter with Bobby Dickerson there, maybe discussing infield defense. That ball is lined and foul down the line.
Yeah, ball up and in. I mean, Melky made a nice swing. I'm not sure if he broke the bat or not. It appears that he might have. Trying to get the bat head to the ball. Yeah, the reason it's so hard to hit the ball in on you, whether you're left-handed or right-handed, you have to hit it out in front so much. And of course, the good hitters do all those front arm drills where that's what they work on, getting the bat out in front. And he did a nice job of it, but broke the bat.
Good take, ball 3.
Yeah, we saw a little bit better velocity in Tampa Bay, but it's early.
And it's cold.
Yeah.
And a leadoff walk. So Melky works the walk. He's on, leading off in the second. Well, mark your calendars. The Yankees are coming to town. Their first Oriole Park visit begins on Tuesday. It's the opener of a 3-game midweek series against the Birds. Help us paint the ballpark orange for this classic battle in the AL East. Now, good seats remain, so come on out and join us. Orioles.com for 888-848-BIRD. Here's Brett Lawrie, who's had a good series, including 2 home runs. The dirt in the infield is pretty wet because it did rain. It wasn't raining when the starting pitchers went out to warm up, and then a little cell just popped up in downtown Baltimore, and it rained lightly for about 20-25 minutes. So the infield dirt is pretty wet. So that may curtail the running game a little bit. The pitcher's mound and home plate were covered.
Yeah, Cabrera ran a little bit when he came up with the Yankees, back in the late 2000s. Then when he was with Kansas City, he stole 20 bases, got caught 10. That's a little bit lower percentage. Kind of wondering on if you, but of course the counts in Ubaldo Jimenez's favor. But if you get into a hitter's count, would you start the runner and maybe hit and run with Lawrie? Just the way he's swinging. A high fastball off Brad Brock, and then a changeup in the middle of the plate off of Kevin Gausman. That were the home runs in this series.
1-1 on Lawrie. Center field for Jones. Adam comes in on it, and that one falls in there. And Melky Cabrera read it perfectly, and he gets all the way to third.
Well, that's usually a catchable ball, and I think Adam probably didn't get a good read on it, but Cabrera, take a look right here. See, he goes back, and now he comes in. It's going to be too late. Very rarely do you ever see that from Adam Jones, but Cabrera got a great read on it. Normally, you'd only get to second. Double play would still be in order, but not the case. Boy, off the bat, it just looked like it was routine, but anything but that.
So the leadoff walk now at third with Lawrie at first. First base hit for Chicago, and here's Jerry Sands, who's DHing.
Couple of hits to start his at bats last night. One to left, one to right.
And there's a strike, and our Maryland Live Casino inside the numbers. Runners in scoring position this season. Orioles 329, that's best. 208 against, that's second in MLB of reducing those rallies. So those pitchers doing a real good job in these situations. Trying to keep Lawrie close.
Well, with Ubaldo with runners in scoring position, 107, incredibly low number. And you talked about strikeouts. That's what he would like. Sands wants to get a ball in the air if he can, and
Ubaldo has already walked 2 for the season. He's averaging 4 walks per 9 innings, which is high, but it's actually right at his career average. First and third, 1-1 on Sands. And this is low.
Yeah, he really doesn't have the live arm that he had down in Tampa Bay. A little different ball club too. You know, a lot of young hitters in Tampa, so if you make your pitches, and he was making them, a little more susceptible. Of course, Sands a young guy, home run guy in the minor leagues throughout. Dodgers and Cleveland. So it just seems like today, you know, not as much velocity on the fastball, and if you don't have that, you lose your arm speed on all your other pitches. But this inning's all about the leadoff walk, and then a ball that fell in that Adam Jones didn't get a good read on.
A 3-1 on Sands. Deanna Navarro, the catcher's on deck. And there's a walk, second in the inning, and the bases are loaded. So we'll see how the Orioles set up their defense here. There is a force at the plate. Looks like up the middle they're going to play for two. And Machado and Davis are pinching on the corners. Manny's tight. Davis is tight. They can come to the plate if they elect to do so.
Yeah, I think what the Orioles are, they are about a step or two behind the bag, but they're just saying, how do we stay out of a big inning here? You got Chris Sale, who's given up about a run .66 a game, 5-0. You know the White Sox just want to give them a lead, then they'll relax even more.
Strike two. 89.
Yeah, a little more arm speed there.
Low percentage there. 2 out of 21. Struck him out. 3 consecutive pitches on the outside corner, and Navarro never swung the bat.
Yeah, Deanna's going, why me? I mean, all of a sudden a little more velocity. 91. This is the way he was thrown down in Tampa. Boy, does Caleb Joseph present that to the home plate with Jerry Davis about as well as you can. Perfect pitch.
The one away, and here's Austin Jackson. Line foul on 1.
So you know what Navarro wanted to do. The last thing he wanted to do is strike out, and you know exactly what Ubaldo wanted to do. So now, because with one pitch, and you look at Jackson, he had a great at bat and sliced that single into right, but all of a sudden he becomes a double play candidate if you can make your pitches. So some pretty nice numbers. 347 with a grand slam with the bases loaded.
He is scuffling at the plate, though, even with that RBI hit last night. 1 for 11 in the series. 2-1, close pitch down and in.
Kind of the same pitch as he called Navarro out on. Up a right-handed batter.
Here's your big pitch. You don't want to go to 3-1. Ground ball to third. Can they turn 2? Manny, Stoke, Davis. There's a double play, and Ubaldo gets out of it. 5-4-3, and Ubaldo gets that ground ball to get out of a big jam. Bases loaded, nobody out, and the White Sox cannot score. Garcia of Riverdale has won $500 for being selected, and will add $500 more for every Orioles home run hit in the game today. Play Home Run Rich's scratch-offs and win up to $50,000, or enter your non-winning tickets for a chance to be the contestant of the game. Visit mdlottery.com/baseball. Ubaldo and Caleb Joseph. Now that have a big jam, and as Jim pointed out, the strikeout was the key. Set up the double play to end the inning, and that's exactly what he got. Okay. J.J. Hardy will lead off, and Sal gets ahead 0-1. J.J. 3 for 14 in the series. He has 3 career hits off Sal, including a home run, and he looks at a breaking ball for strike 2. Reimold and Scope will follow. Down the line towards the corner, but foul. Sale was fortunate there as that one hung out over the plate.
Well, you can see came in about what, 22% of the rest of his pitches today. Maybe a few less fastballs yet.
Popped him up down the line. Eaton gets there, and the right fielder has it in fair territory for the out. So 1 away, and Nolan Reimold coming up. Our Jeep inside the numbers. Best in April. Minimum 1 at bat with a team. Well, Reimold leading in batting. Machado and Davis tied with home runs. Trumbo has the RBI lead. Manny, the extra base hits. Brad Brock, the Vulture, leads with wins. 1.26 ERA for Brad as well. And we say that with affection, because that's a good guy to have on your team.
Because of the ankle injury to Zach Britton, who seemed better today, but not available. Brad Brock and the Orioles hope that'll be the case. They'll need somebody to close the game.
Skied to right, long run for Eaton, and that ball's fading back, and it's out of play just in front of the grandstand.
I thought Buck Showalter, I mean, Buck makes a lot of points, but he was talking about closers. He said closer just is a guy that pitches the 9th inning, and of course to close and get a save you have to have the lead. He said the other day Michael Gibbons on what, Friday, I guess he was alluding to, he closed the game in the 6th inning.
2 strikeouts. Yep.
Yeah. So
Reimold pops it up. Shortstop Sanchez calls.
Yeah, a little extra on the fastball, so actually changing speeds with a heater gets the pop up.
And 2 quick outs here in the 2nd. Space is still available in 2 of the sessions for next Sunday's special Mother's Day catch on the field opportunity. So don't miss your family's special chance to take the field at Oriole Park prior to the game against Oakland, which begins at 1:35, and create some Birdland memories. Now, ticket packages are on sale now. It includes game tickets plus the on-field access for the unique session of catch. A portion of the proceeds benefits the Orioles Charitable Foundation. For all the info, Orioles.com/catch. And Mom's at the game today on May Day. 1-1 the count. Scope's got a 4-game hitting streak going. 4 hits in that streak, including a homer. Ooh, good cut. And there's his home run on Friday night. Ended the long home run drought. Deep in the hole for Sanchez. Off balance throw, and safe is the call. Let's see if the White Sox want a challenge. Pretty good effort there by Sanchez.
Well, you know, they'll go to their camera people, video people. Yeah, he's over in the hole, so he has to come a long way. It's a heave, a very accurate one, and boy, bang bang at first. This is what they'll look at. Nope, safe. Nothing there to change. Now they can always challenge it, but I didn't see anything definitive.
So an infield hit keeps the inning going. John's got a 5-game hitting streak.
Doesn't get a whole lot of those. Got to be happy.
The INF hits. Here's Caleb. Strike on the corner.
Or somewhere close to the corner.
Sale has allowed 3 home runs in his first 5 starts. 2 came in 1 game. That was against the Cleveland Indians. Check swing and it's outside. Appeal. He went. So it's 0-2. Mike Napoli hit a 2-run home run and Yan Gomes a solo. That was April 9th. And then in that Blue Jays game you were talking about, it was Encarnacion, the only run the Jays got against him, a solo home run. The Sale ahead 0-2.
Yeah, Encarnacion, I think, won it. I don't know if it was that home run, but he hit his 200th home run as a Blue Jay last week. So he hits home runs off of everybody.
1-2 on Joseph. Ground ball ricochets off Sal, but right in front of him. Picks it up and flips, and he gets the out. So fortunate for Sal, it went to the first base side, not the third base side. So an infield hit, 1 left. We're through 2. Pitchers in control. No score. And then he got himself out of it.
Well, a couple of walks. Adam Jones doesn't get a good read, but this was the pivotal right there. Navarro never gets the bat off his shoulder, and then the Orioles do what they didn't do last night, which is turn the double play. So again, it gets him out. Manny made a nice play because the ball came up a little bit, and then once you get it to scope, boy, it's kind of a done deal with his arm strength. But huge, especially with Sale, who doesn't need a lot of run support, pitching for the White Sox.
Down and into Adam Eaton 1-0.
I think you better tell Mr. Davis when the curveball is coming, because that curveball was pretty much right down the middle and he missed it. Got to do that with umpires sometimes. I know that people are going, wow, well, some guys, it's a hard pitch to call. But when it's down the middle, you kind of expect to get it.
The only time I've ever heard of a catcher talking to umpires to get strike calls for his pitchers was when Brooke Fordyce was the Orioles catcher and Rodrigo Lopez was one of the starters. And Rodrigo, to left-handed batters, had that real good 2-seamer that he would start out and it would come back on the corner. And Fordyce used to tell the umpires before the hitters came up, hey, stay with the pitch, stay with the pitch.
Don't give up on it.
Close pitch, 2-2.
Yeah, a lot of fastballs and splitters so far. There's one bounce foul.
Adam Eaton has 9 infield hits on the year. He also now has 10 multi-hit games. Right to Davis. Ooh, hard hit ball, and he had a tough hop. One away in the Chicago third. Well, it's time now for Masson's Trivia Scramble. Which Orioles pitcher won the Cy Young and finished second in the AL MVP voting in 1973? Text the answer to 29292 for your chance to win an autographed prize pack from Masson. Brought to you by Care First Blue Cross Blue Shield. Live fearless with the name trusted for over 75 years. RLPMEA. Unscramble that and you might win. Here's Sanchez. Strike one.
Well, there's the curveball, and it gets called. Well, for Ubaldo, what you look at numbers.
Maybe Caleb told him.
If you were a whatever.
Another one to first. Oh, diving stop by Davis. He gets the out. Takes a double away from Sanchez.
Yeah, you think he's a one-dimensional player, but he's not. He's a good base runner. Very unappreciated by the masses. Certainly not Ubaldo Jimenez, who's getting over there just in case he can't get up. I mean, that's a double, and it gets taken away. Very quick feet. Talks about how Bobby Dickerson, even Mike Bordick, you know, talking on your first move of an infielder. Bobby, the infield instructor, third base coach.
That is a terrific view from right down the right field line. Davis was completely airborne to get that ball.
Well, the other thing is when you get in the set position, when the ball's in the hitting zone as an infielder, you have to be able to go both ways. You can't be lean. If he was leaning to his right, he never would have been able to go to his left, and that would have been a double into the corner, and then you would have had Abreu, who's been, seems like he can get a hit to right field anytime he wants to if you pitch to him.
This is low, 2-0.
Yeah, the one number that you look at Ubaldo, and you know, he didn't do it in the second inning, and then he had a pitch out of a bases loaded, no out situation, is he's about 50% of getting the lead runner on every inning, and that's just not where you want to be. You want to be around 70%.
Tough play for Manny. He's got a charge. Throws on the run. He got him. Ubaldo has a 3-up, 3-down inning, helped out by Davis in the middle, and the Sox go in order. Mid-third, O's coming to bat. No score. A reminder, as you enjoy a cold one, to look forward to Miller Time later in today's game, brought to you by Miller Lite. Crush Davis can also do it with the leather. As he takes a base hit away from Sanchez. It was so unusual for the Orioles last night. 2 errors, not only in the game in 1 inning. They had committed 2 errors total in the prior 10 games. Joey Rickard for his second at bat.
Well, it was just the type of errors. You know, throwing every Machado, and then Scope, you know, had to go back, and the ball hit his glove, and he couldn't get a handle on it. But if you go back and see in this game, I mean, Davis already saved when Frazier hit that ground ball back in the first. How about the low throw? It was about 3 feet out in front. It wasn't your typical pick at first base on the low throw. So. But you want to see a number. We talk about how important it is to get a leadoff man retired. coming into the game, Sale was 35 out of 39, 90%. I've never seen that number that high. But then again, maybe that's why he's 5-0 and giving up a little over a run and a half a game.
And he's also pitched at least 7 innings in every one of his starts. It's pretty amazing.
There's the extra. He can go more than 88 to 92. But again, the plan is to pitch more, maybe a little more under control. Certainly, I mean, 274 strikeouts last year. It's a lot, and that's a all-time record for the White Sox.
But Buck says one of the things about Sale that makes him so difficult for hitters is he says there are pitchers that throw inside. He knows how to pitch inside. 7th pitch is swung on and fouled off, so Rickard battling here.
Well, I was talking about last night, if you make your pitches, you throw the ball or you pitch the ball to where you're throwing. I mean, the ball that Ubaldo Jimenez threw to Kiermaier that he hit for the home run, 0-2.
And Rickard has a base hit to left center field. What an at-bat for Joey. 8 pitches to get on with a leadoff single.
Well, he just pecks away, and he has good at-bats. The other thing comes in 320 against lefties. But here's a fastball. Boy, you don't get away with balls in the middle of the plate to him. Going to hit it hard somewhere, so you have a little bit of speed at first with nobody out here in the 3rd.
Boy, that was a nice looking swing. Here's Manny, who singled his first at bat. Manny has 34 base hits. Manny has 35 base hits. Rickard will hold at second. Eaton gets to the ball quickly, and he has some kind of an arm. So back-to-back singles to begin the 3rd. For every Orioles walk, CareFirst Blue Cross Blue Shield contributes $50 to support the Be More for Healthy Babies. The Orioles have drawn 69 walks for a total of $3,450. CareFirst Blue Cross Blue Shield encourages each of us to take that first step towards a healthier and a more active lifestyle.
Yeah, a lot of times, you'll see, well, the Orioles don't run the bases very well because they don't go from 1st to 3rd. It's hard to go from 1st to 3rd in this ballpark when the ball's hit hard. And you're in your 4th game, nobody's running on Adam Eaton. If you do, it's a good chance that he's going to throw you out.
Well, he already has 6 assists.
And that's why he put the brakes on. And you got the heart of your order coming up. Trumbo, even though he made an out the first time, very good numbers. It came in 11 for 5. Or, excuse me, 5 for 11. And, a couple of doubles, a home run.
Well, 1-0 on Mark Trumbo, 1st and 2nd. Mark popped foul to first his first at bat. Got underneath the curveball. Good chance for the O's here. 2 on and none out. And a good take. Well, Trumbo has faced Sale and has done very well against Sale. Highest career OPS, so on base plus slugging, 1.409. Only Victor Martinez higher. So those are very good numbers for Trumbo. Batting 3rd for the first time as an Oriole. Oh, good cut. In 19 career at bats as a number 3 hitter, he's batted .368.
Well, you can see the power zone, and it's kind of inside middle. We saw, he took Buchholz up in Boston. He tried to get in. But you can see the kind of swing when you get into a hitter's count, and Mark Trumbo is at the plate.
Good take, 3-1. Well, Jim, you mentioned in Sale's first starts, he allowed 21 hits, an average of 5 per game. The Orioles already have 4 through 2 innings plus 2 batters. And Chicago has pitched to an ERA in this series of 6.48. Foul ball got a piece of Jerry Davis.
He got it in just enough where Mark Trumbo couldn't get to it. Out over the plate, probably would have been a hit a little harder. But you're looking fastball. You can see Navarro comes in and the ball's in. And then maybe went off his mask and then got Jerry Davis.
How about that? It ricocheted off the mask and hit his hand. Richie Bancel's leaning on the railing just in case Jerry Davis needed him.
Yeah, the Oriole trainer, longtime trainer.
Now 3-2 on Trumbo. And he swung and
it hit him, but he swung.
It hit him and he swung and missed. So the runners will have to go back.
Yeah, that's why the ball is dead once it hits the batter. But a 3-2 slider and a good one. So good, you think it's going to be over the plate. It just keeps coming, and then hits your back. Oh, almost the back knee, maybe just a shade above it.
Wow, did that pitch move?
Well, you hope he's all right. I mean, he just took one almost off the kneecap, just a little bit higher than that.
That's a big out for Sale, one away. Runners don't advance. Here's Adam, who drew a walk his first at bat, his 7th walk already on the year.
So he's got movement, and then he throws really 4 pitches when you want to count the 2-seam or 4-seam fastball. And I mean, it's 33% chance you'll get any pitch in any count. He just proved that. You can't sit on any one pitch, especially at 3-2. And then the quality of that breaking ball was so good that Trumbo swung at it and hit him. That's a sharp breaking ball.
Fouled out of play, 1-1. Jones had a real good at bat in the first inning. He fell behind 0-2 and he worked a walk. 46 at bats without a home run. April 16th he went deep. Ground ball. Frazier's got it. Second one. Back to first. There's a double play to end the inning. So each pitcher gets a double play, and that one nicely turned as Frazier just got to it to start the 5-4-3. O's threaten, don't score. Scoreless in Baltimore. RAV4 Hybrid, all-wheel drive and unexpected performance. Visit buyatoyota.com. Another overcast day downtown. With the rain has cooperated. It was absolutely pouring when I was driving into work today. It's one of those rains that you're driving in thinking there's no way this game's going to be played, and then all of a sudden the system moved off.
Unless you have your weather app. They said last night it was probably going to be a little bit later clearing, but it cleared prematurely. And
hard hit ball off the glove of Manny to Hardy. The long throw, and they got him! Wow, what a play! Oh my goodness!
Well, check out Todd Frazier. He can't believe it. He's down the right field line, and boy, oh. Standing ovation. I mean, right here, the little tick to the shortstop, get your balance, slow throw. Why not? You got Chris Davis over there. He backhands it. There you go. Unbelievable.
Your routine 5-6-3 putout.
Well, it's a BB into left field, and all of a sudden, if you're Todd Frazier, you're out. And again, what Ubaldo doesn't do well is get the leadoff batter off in a 0-0 game. It's important, and the gloves come out. 2 of them, 3 of them actually.
Well, the infielders on this team, they all have very good hands, and they're quick hands, and you saw it there. First with Manny even getting to that ball, and then Hardy alertly grabbing the ricochet. There's a line to the right. Joey Rickard reaches up and grabs it. That ball was sailing off the bat of Cabrera.
Yeah, that ball taken off a little bit. You can backspin a ball, and it doesn't do anything but actually go up. I mean, this is a BB. It's probably a triple if it gets over his head, but it doesn't. Melky going, wait a minute, let's see. Friday night, I hit the bases loaded line drive. Adam Jones caught it, threw out Rollins at the plate. And then today I hit one hard, and Rickard runs it down.
Here's Brett Lawrie. Bloop single his first at bat. Since Ubaldo loaded the bases in the second with nobody down, he's retired 7 in a row. Lays off the slider. Comparison. What do I have to do?
And he'll go and sit next to Todd Frazier, who hit a BB in the left. They can commiserate with each other.
Center field. Adam Jones going way back, and it's out of here. It carries out to center field, and the White Sox get a lead.
Yeah, you look like Ubaldo's trying to check the wind. So 3 hard hit balls, and the only one that really proves his undoing is the home run. 3rd home run of this series. And it's not a bad, I mean, it's down, it's in the middle of the plate, but it gives you an idea of how he hit 16. What a load. He loads and then extends.
Here's Jerry Sands, but the good thing was it was a solo because of the defense prior to it.
Well, that's the 14th career home run that Laurie's hit against the Orioles.
Sands drew a walk to load the bases in the second. Ball's behind 0-2.
Now they called that a strike, and oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. Day game after night game, Jim.
See you later. Called out on strikes. Sands didn't like it, but he's out. Well, tremendous defense in this inning. Machado to Hardy, and Davis on the back end. The players like it. Tyler Wilson can't believe it, and the O's get a big out. Orioles baseball on Masson is brought to you by Southwest. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. And by PNC Bank for the achiever in you. Beautiful flowers outside Camden Yards. We'd like to say happy Easter to our Greek Orthodox and Eastern Orthodox friends celebrating Easter Sunday today. Brett Lawrie celebrating with a home run. For Sale at 56 pitches to get through 3 innings. Chris Davis off speed pitch on 1.
Yeah, how about being 5-0, but only as a starting pitcher, averaging about 13.8 pitches per 9 innings. So that up, as you mentioned, pretty efficient. 15-16 would be a very good number.
You know, what's amazing about his career, mentioned he was drafted the first round of 2010 in June. He only pitched in the minor leagues in 11 games. He had 4 games in A ball to get him used to pro ball. Here's your 4 games. Go get used to it in the Sally League. Then they promoted him to AAA from the South Atlantic League. Pitched 7 games there. And then he went to Chicago. And his first 2 seasons, he was a reliever. Perfectly placed fastball. Davis out on strikes, 1 away.
Well, we talked about the fact that he'll just add a little bit, and there he adds 92 on the corner. And Navarro, that certainly helps to have your catcher slide right to the corner, and then you hit the glove, and if you're Jerry Davis, you're calling this pitch.
Perfect pitch. But as a rookie, he got into 21 games, then his first full year, 58 games out of the bullpen. It wasn't until his 3rd season that they transitioned him back into the rotation, and all he did that year was win 17 games.
Well, what you alluded to, the fact they thought he was too frail, maybe that, you know, be better out of the bullpen than as a starter. But it's never really been a problem. And talk about being ready to pitch. He gets the ball and looks in for the sign.
Out of Lakeland, Florida, 62 big league wins.
And only 40 losses. An ERA under 3 runs a game at 286.
He's the first White Sox starter to begin a year 5-0 and go at least 7 innings in all of those starts since 1935. Your friend John Whitehead did it that year. He did it 8 in a row. Ooh, close take there. Wow. The last left-hander to do it was Randy Johnson, and he did it in 6 straight games. He was 6-0 with at least 7 innings pitched.
Now you go down and start looking at the numbers. 10 or more strikeouts 31 times. That's a lot of times. And you saw his ability when he gets into trouble to get out of it, which is what he did last inning.
7th pitch is outside, and Hardy draws a 1-out walk. Second walk allowed by Chris Sale. Well, after today's game, all the kids 14 and under will head out to the field and run the bases at Oriole Park. This year, as you know, every Sunday home game, your family has the chance to come on out, enjoy a great afternoon of Orioles baseball, then cap it off with the lifelong memories your kids will have running the bases here at Camden Yards, pretending they're your favorite Oriole players. The next Sunday home game is next Sunday on Mother's Day, 1:35 against Oakland. For tickets, Orioles.com or 888-848-BIRD. Reimold takes a strike, popped out to short his first at bat. Nolan's got a 2-game hitting streak going, back-to-back multi-hit games. When Buck met with the media today, one of the questions he was asked was, and he does have a slogan, if you will, that if a player wants to get more playing time, play better, and you will in fact earn that playing time. Swing and a miss, and it was presented to him about Hyun-Soo Kim, who all of a sudden, Jim, has a 4-game hitting streak and is 7 for his last 10. And Buck said, well, that's true. If you play better, you usually get more playing time, but who's he going to replace? And if you look at the depth, Buck's got a real good point, because if Kim plays, either Reimold or Rickard can't, or if Kim would DH, that means maybe Alvarez can't. So they really do have a dilemma, if it is a dilemma, of having too many players for the positions that can play each game. And Reimold is one in that mix. Got him on a high fastball.
Yeah, 91, but the deception just up the ladder. You know, the illusion is the ball is going to be probably somewhere where you don't think it is. And again, way on the third base side, he steps really not that much across his body, but it appears that way, and then just rides the ball up in the zone. And part of that is you look at what happened earlier in the at bat. He was late on the fastball, and he figured why not throw another one. And Nolan Reimold swings right through it.
Here's Scope.
And he's making 90 look like 95 or 7 because of the deception factor.
6'6", all arms and legs coming at you, and a very consistent delivery for him.
Well, again, he's got a closed stance, which means that his front side, his right shoulder, will be kind of like a hitter where your front shoulder is closer to the plate. So he closes a little bit, and I just don't think you see the ball. So when he comes to his position, now he's open there to get the sign, but see him close? So he's really throwing it right out of his jersey.
Breaking ball down and away.
And you can't really eliminate any of his pitches. We saw that to Mark Trumbo. He came in at 5 for 11. He struck him out with runners at first and second, nobody out in a 0-0 game at the time. And the breaking ball was so good, 3-2, it hit him in the back knee. And there's another one of those really good breaking balls. The good breaking ball, you know, the spin, you don't pick it up as well. It's a tighter spin, and it's more difficult to track. And the other thing is, out of your hand, you can't distinguish whether it's a slider or a fastball. And the same thing with his changeup. He really hasn't thrown as many changeups as he normally throws as of yet.
And he gets Scope. And the inning ends. So the 1-out walk and a man left through 4 here at Camden Yards. White Sox with a 1-0 lead.
Defense by the Orioles. Hardy, toughest play for a shortstop in the hole. Long throw, and then off the bat of Sanchez, double robbed, and boy, it doesn't get any better than this. Kick save by Manny Machado, and then Rickard, the line drive off the bat of Melky Cabrera, saves a double, maybe a triple up the gap. Those are your Geico game highlights. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com for a free rate quote.
Ubaldo goes to work on Dioner Navarro, and he gets ahead on 1. Navarro's seen 4 pitches. They've all been strikes, and he has yet to swing the bat. 5 for his last 20 as he stands in, hitting against the shift. You saw Hardy move over and Scope back up.
Yeah, and if he was able to, with coming up the last time up with the bases loaded, nobody out, the scoreboard probably looked a little bit different.
Against the shift, Manny can't reach it. So the ground ball finds a hole. And a leadoff single for Chicago. Here's our upcoming schedule, brought to you by Mile One Automotive, offering you 20 convenient locations throughout the Baltimore area. Visit us in store or online at mile1.com. Well, the Yankees come to town beginning Tuesday. 3-game series, all night games, all at 7 o'clock. Those extra get you started at 6:30.
Yeah, they will play the Sunday night game tonight against the Red Sox. They get David Price, where they've lost 4 in a row and they're struggling for runs.
Here's Austin Jackson. Nice block by Caleb.
And once again, leadoff batter.
The Red Sox are doing this week what you need to do if you want to contend. They're taking advantage of weaker opposition. They had their home-and-home series with the Braves, which is their natural rival in the interleague. Atlanta has the worst record in the major leagues, and Boston got 3 out of 4. And now they're playing a struggling Yankees team that is in last place in the division, and they've won the first 2 games in that series. So the Red Sox now 14-10. They're just a half game back of the Orioles for the top spot in the AL East.
And they are talking about the Red Sox leading the American Leagues in runs per game at 5.15.
Right center field gap. That ball's trouble. Adam Jones over. He knocks it down. Jackson's thinking 2, and he's going to hustle in with a double. So a single, now a double. Sox have something going here in the 5th.
Yeah, both of the balls to the middle of the diamond. You know, Navarro, as you mentioned, 5 for 20. He goes up the middle. This fastball inside middle. They're playing him to pull. You know, that's why the ball falls. If you're a couple steps over into right center, even though he's been struggling, but they choose to maybe think he'll pull the ball, and he goes the other way, and all of a sudden you got second and third, nobody out.
Well, they got ahead 2-0. And able to look for a fastball, and he didn't miss it. So here's Adam Eaton. Strike 1. Eaton is struck out and grounded out to Davis at first. Line drive, left field line, foul. Fortunately so.
Yeah, I think that's going to cost him a bat. You can see the approach. It was just amazes me that he struck out 131 times last year. Had a good year, but for a contact guy, maybe he just hit it off the end of the bat. It's a lot of strikeouts, and that's Ubaldo able to get Navarro with the bases loaded on strike 3, low and away. That's what he's going to figure out. How can I get Adam Eaton out for the second time on strikes? Threw him a good split-fingered fastball the last time. He swung right through it.
So Baldo gets ahead of him 0-2.
In the infield in a little bit, and that's all about Chris Sale. You just don't. Buck Showalter saying I can't give up a whole bunch of more runs. And
whoa! And Jerry Davis said it hit him.
Well, if you go back to the last start, 0-2, he went in, and Kiermaier hit the home run, didn't get it in. This ball's right at the head.
Oh, it did.
Get the top of the shoulder. Boy, I don't like to pitch up there. Very, very dangerous. Amazing he was able to get out of the way. And you're taught to kind of turn the head away, and that's exactly what he did. Got him on the shoulder.
Yeah, that one just got away. He was ahead 0-2.
Well, that might have to, you know, if you're going in, you want to go in. You just don't want to go in that much and hit somebody. And that sets up the whole outside corner if you can pitch in off the plate. Again, the home run was to Kiermaier. Didn't get it in. The attempt was there, but well, maybe that's an after fact of that.
Check swing, appeal. He didn't go. Well, this is the second time in this game Chicago has loaded the bases with nobody out. In the second inning, they did not score. Sanchez was robbed his last at bat by Chris Davis. Ground ball past the mound. There's Hardy, flips the scope. They get the force there. Can't get the play at first, and a run scores. Nicely done by Hardy to get Adam Eaton.
Yeah, very nice. And you know, again, if you're second baseman, you're going, well, can I get to this ball? Well, there's Hardy, and then Scope thinking maybe I have to try to catch it. Heads up enough to get back to the bag.
Boy, look
nice
at that
little lead.
Yeah. And the foot hitting Scope.
Like a playmaking guard leading him. But Sanchez runs too well to turn the double play.
And by getting that runner, it keeps the double play in order. Jackson now at third. Center field, Adam Jones in on it. It's going to fall for a base hit. Sox get another run as Jackson comes in. Another soft single, an RBI for Abreu. 3-0 Chicago. Dave Wallace now out for a chat, so a disastrous inning for Ubaldo. 3 hits and a hit batter has led to a couple of runs.
Yeah, the White Sox do a tremendous job of using the middle of the field. You know, even the home run by Brett Lawrie early on, straight away. And of course, Abreu, just for a guy that hits home runs, doesn't overswing a lot.
Still only 1 down. Pitch count up to 71. Ubaldo had back-to-back 11-pitch innings. So here's the dangerous Todd Frazier, 0 for 2. He was robbed his last at-bat by Machado and Hardy. So Frazier, as most hitters do, when the pitching coach goes out, they look fastball on the first pitch after the visit, and he swung from his heels. Last time he hit it to Manny, who ricocheted it to Hardy, deflected it. Vance Worley now beginning to do some calisthenics. Oh, and he hit him. And that hit him on the hand, and he appears to be in some discomfort.
Yeah, just no time to get out of the way. Maybe the back of the hand. The ball runs right in, and see, instead of turning into it, boy, got him at the bottom of that left hand.
So 2 hit batters in the inning. And the bases again will be loaded with 1 down, and you don't like to see that. Just to look like the 2-seam fastball and just ran in on him. So Worley now beginning to heat up.
Herm Snyder, the trainer, actually came through the Oriole organization, was the trainer in Rochester. So he looks at Todd Frazier. Herm has been with the White Sox for 38 years. And Robin Ventura asking Herm where it got him. Or maybe the softer part of the hand.
The Sox have a chance here to really break it open. Up 3-0, bases loaded, 1 down. Here's Cabrera. Good call there by Caleb. Goes to the breaking ball to get ahead.
Well, when Melky's hit the ball hard in this series, it's been on the fastball. Ubaldo has not had a good fastball today as far as velocity wise. There's another splitter. Melky's thinking, well, if I'm going to hit it, I don't want to hit it to Rickard because he robbed me, and I don't want to hit it to Adam Jones. And then Ubaldo's saying, you know, I've got Chris Sale on the mound for the White Sox. I can't afford to give up any more runs. I need a strikeout.
Line down the line, but foul. Jimenez won his first start of the year, April 7th against Minnesota. 0-2 with a no decision in the 3 starts since. And trailing here in the 5th inning. Poke to left field. Long run in for Reimold. That falls for a base hit. Here comes 1 run to the plate. Here comes Abreu. He is out at the plate. Perfect throw by Reimold to get the trail runner, and 2 men are down.
Yeah, they get the 4th run. I mean, Cabrera just sticks his bat out and pokes it. This is very Kansas City Royal-like. Just watch him just flick it. And then he finds a hole. And Abreu, he's watching the play, and that's the difference. Perfect throw. Great tag by Caleb Joseph. Gives him that outside lane, and then takes it away. Perfect throw. Orioles leading the American League in outfield assists last year. Kind of heading that direction again. Perfect throw and perfect tag.
So 2 down, still 2 men on. It's a 3-run inning and a 4-0 lead. And here's Brett Lawrie. The hard hit balls off the Sox bat, except for the Lawrie home run, have been caught, but they're serving soft singles all over. Gets away from Caleb. Throw to second base.
Wow.
The runner broke back.
That ball almost goes into center. One of those reflexes. Little splitter that bounces. Tries to keep it in front of him. Can't. And Frazier will no hesitation. Take a look. Top of your picture right there. He's going. And then Melky thinks about it over at first. The ball bouncing way out in front of home plate.
Yeah, it looked like Caleb's last glance at Melky had him going to second. Then when he reached down to pick up the ball, he just fired, not realizing Cabrera went back to first. Lawrie is the 8th White Sox hitter in this inning. One and 1 the count. Chicago's at 17-8. It's their best record through 25 games since 2006. They began that year 18-7. And the 17 wins in April also tied their franchise record.
Yeah, just one of those days where you're, instead of maybe 91, that's his average fastball at 88, just not that extra little, because that ball was maybe an inch or 2 low. Of course, it's also the same pitch that Lawrie hit over the center field fence. There are days when you just don't have your fastball's not as good, but the bottom line, the White Sox are a different team. They're making contact when last year they would have struck out. They have a pretty good game plan. We always talk about it with the Orioles. When you strike out and you don't put the ball in play, the batter's out. And we saw the Royals time after time. That's how they end up winning the World Series. They struck out the least amount of times in the American League last year.
And a walk, and for a 3rd time this inning, the bases are loaded. Ubaldo's walked 4. He's hit 2 batters. And he trails 4-0.
And Buck is not a guy that you're going to rush out and get because he's a veteran. I mean, it is what it is today. You don't want to have to go to the bullpen, and we'll probably end up going maybe next year. It's only 82 pitches. It's just that the White Sox are hitting a lot of them. And I think that Buck also trusts him where he's still going to be, at least have his head in the game, still be able to maintain his focus.
And here's Jerry Sands. Chicago has batted around. He has walked. He has struck out. And a foul. So the White Sox with 4 runs on the board. And we've talked about how that is the magic number for teams. When the Sox have scored 4 or more runs, they are 13-0. See the other best records percentage-wise. The Orioles are 11-2. Last night was their 2nd loss. Center field, another soft hit, and it falls in. 2 more runs score, and it's 6-0 Chicago.
Yeah, you really can't do a whole lot about that. I mean, it's just the velocity's not quite what it normally is. So you get to it a little bit more, even though it's a very good pitch. It's up and in. It's at the belt, on the hands, and they keep fighting them off. I mean, that ball's right up on the trademark. And because of that, it doesn't get a whole lot of carry, and it finds a safe haven in front of Adam Jones in center.
So the day is done for Ubaldo. Vance Worley comes on in the 5th.
And obviously the numbers not supporting that. I mean, a lot of soft hits, a couple balls, as you mentioned, Jim, that were hit hard. And again, he'll leave at least the first 6 runs to him. And then your Jiffy Lube pitching change brought to you by Jiffy Lube, where participating stores now do brake services. Stop in and let Jiffy Lube inspect your brakes today. So Vance Worley back again this afternoon. You know, a lot of movement, occasional curveball. And again, a veteran that can start, and because Tyler Wilson is now one of your starters, he's really the long man.
Deano Navarro began this inning with a ground ball single to center field, and he'll take a strike. And you're not seeing McFarland here because the Yankees have predominantly left-handed hitting lineups, so Buck appears to be saving him for the New York series. 0-2.
Yeah, it all started with that single, as you mentioned, up the middle. You put the shift on, and you only have one guy on the left side, and that was your shortstop, J.J. Hardy, and he just kind of took a splitter. He'd been struggling a little bit and served it up the middle, and that's kind of how it started. And then Jackson hit the double and played him the pull. The ball fell in right center.
3-pitch strikeout ends the inning, but a big inning for Chicago. They score 5 to get a 6-0 lead. Our Honda do-ups for the O's: Joseph, Rickard, and Machado. Cheever and you, Chris Lee, they have a lot of big expectations for him, and he's pitching real well for the Bay Sox.
Well, he's got a great arm, and you know, you of course did your scouting, and you got a text from Alan Mills, who's his pitching coach. He says he's pitched well, he's been aggressive, slider thrown for strikes and change as well, learning how to use it in sequence, but has an excellent approach, has made in-game adjustments mechanically, and pitches to work out of trouble. Glowing report from your pitching coach.
Well,
Let's
you're
hope
not
he keeps
kidding.
it up. Has a great arm.
His last two starts really coming on.
That's Chris Sales, who now has a 6-0 lead thanks to the 5-run 5th inning, and nothing will change. And he just makes his pitches. I mean, it's not a changeup. That's the same speed as his changeups, right. But that's this year's maybe sometimes less is more swing, and then there's your changeup at 81. But again, we've seen him go to as high as 93, and he usually pitches anywhere between 88 and 92. So 86, 81, 90.
Caleb had a comebacker his first at bat that actually deflected off the foot of Sale, but Sale was fortunate. It rolled towards the first base side, and he got him at first. And he got him here with a strikeout.
Well, and then he goes to the other side of the plate. So take a look. I mean, Navarro, they get along real well. Chris Sales and Indiana. Navarro, as he just goes to the inside corner and he throws it there. So the last 4 outs have been strikeouts, at least on my card. But again, it is a day game after a night game. So
down and in 1-0. Well, the Orioles knew that this game was going to be the tough one with Sale on the mound. One of the best pitchers anyway, and he's off to a tremendous start. And that's why you look back to last night, while that loss hurt so much. Chicago scored 5 runs in the last 3 innings to win at 8-7, including breaking a tie in the 9th. Ball 3. The O's would love to just answer here and get something on the board, cut into that 6-run deficit. Buck didn't like the call. Rickard was convinced it was a ball. He was heading to first. Rickard 1 out of 2 with a single his last at bat.
Yeah, not too many balls in the middle of the plate from Chris Sales, but that was one of them. And he didn't miss it.
Outside ball 4, so he draws the walk anyway. This copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Orioles and may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Orioles. So a 1-out base runner for Machado. Manny is 2 for 2, his 4th consecutive multi-hit game. And there have been quite a few of those, Jim, in this game. Hitters right on him, but right back in the screen.
No, that's the movement factor. You know, ball runs a little bit. I mean, he's doing what good pitchers do. Just don't know what he's going to throw. There's another high fastball. But just imagine, you know, batting practice, pretty much all the pitches are, if a guy throws 85, they're all 85. Sale is throwing from 86 to 93, and then he's got a changeup and a curveball. Hitters don't like that. They don't like it in BP. They're trying to get their rhythm, and now you're pitching and you're trying to disrupt their rhythm. That's why we've seen a lot of hitters. I'm not talking about Manny. Manny can hit under any circumstances, but a lot of hitters hit real well. They say at 5 o'clock, but when the game starts at 7:05, things change because they don't know what's happening. They can't wait back. They're anxious. Just like pitchers, every ball's at the knees, and then you get out and pitch in the real game, and the ball comes up, and the grip pressure, things change. And to face a guy like Chris Sale, he's changing it for you. It's just very hard to track.
1-2 on Manny. Really battling here.
Yeah, he's hoping he throws him another breaking ball like he did the first time, and maybe it'll speed the bat up a little bit. And there it is. And he hits it foul. But it got in on his fist.
One thing the Orioles have done in this game, Jim, is make Sale work. This will be the 7th pitch for Manny. He's at 94 pitches.
Well, that's why it was so important for Ubaldo, and he couldn't do it, is to keep the game close. I mean, did he? He give up a bunch of 3-run home runs? No, they just kind of, he walked some guys and they got some soft hits. But when you're pitching against somebody good, I mean, here we are in the 5th inning and we're at pitch, 95, and he goes to 95. So they said he has the ability to still pitch in the mid-90s. He just doesn't do it, and he's still 5-0.
6 foul balls in this at bat off the bat of Machado. Rickard on at first with 1 down.
See if this is a changeup. Got the wiggle.
On ball foul.
And it was.
It wiggled.
Well, he's got an 86-mile-per-hour changeup. He's got an 81-mile-per-hour changeup. It's just very comfortable. And part of that credit goes to his pitching coach, who in November, after he struck out on 274. That was in 208 innings, all-time record. They said, yeah, but it's max effort. Boy, we want to save your career, maybe have you stronger if you get to the postseason. And the White Sox happy about the way they've gotten off. They 8-16 last April, and here they come with 17 wins already.
And another foul ball. 8 foul balls of the 10 pitches he's seen.
Well, Manny is one of the better hitters in baseball. Every time whether it's Steve Stone or Ed Farmer, who does radio and TV, you go down to Texas, Tom Greaves says, why isn't he in the conversation with the top young players in baseball? I said, well, he is if you see him every day.
Good take. Some at bat. He's seen 11 pitches to get the count full.
And he's trying everything. Trying to hit that outside corner, man. And again, the ability to hit the ball the other way.
And he walked him. A 12-pitch at bat, 8 foul balls, and 4 out of the strike zone.
And Sale's got a 6-0 lead, so the last thing he wanted to do, but he earned that. Remember
his season high is 100.
What was it? Remember the John Houseman commercial for Smith and Barney? We earned it. Well, he earned that walk.
And he's earning a visit from his pitching coach. 2 starts ago, in his win against the Angels, he threw 108 pitches over 7 innings. In his start in Toronto, prior to this start, he threw 100 pitches in 8 innings. So the Orioles have made him work.
Well, you get a guy that came in 5 for 11 against him, pop-up strikeout, and Mark Trumbo. And we've seen it. What the Orioles want, they'd love a 3-run home run, but they'll take a base hit. They'll take another base hit and get the bullpen up and take your chances. I mean, you just want to get Sale, and the pitch count's going to do it for him anyway. You want him out of the game. You'll take your chances with their bullpen, even though it's a very good one.
Strike at the knees.
Trumbo caught that. Yeah, but Navarro caught that about as poorly as you could ever catch a baseball. I mean, he swiped it right out of the strike zone and still got the call. It looked like it was a strike. But certainly, talking about earning it, not the way you want to catch a ball.
When you talk about offseason acquisitions and how they'll fit into your lineups, Jim, most homers by offseason acquisitions. Neil Walker was with the Pirates, now with the Mets. He has 9. Todd Frazier has 7, first year with the White Sox. Mark Trumbo has 6, first year with the O's.
And then Saltalamacchia with the Tigers.
Found his stroke.
Yeah.
Up and in.
Yeah, he's right about where he's ended up with his pitch count. You know, in the low 100s, 104 to 109. And the Orioles, they'd even take what the White Sox have been able to do, just keep it in play and dump it in somewhere.
The Brewers very deep and left.
Just hit a nice soft single somewhere and keep the merry-go-round going.
Down the line towards the corner, hooking foul.
Yeah, Sale wants a strikeout, and he's got 5 of them today, and the Orioles want to make contact and do a little damage. Nobody up in their bullpen. But one of those games where you're probably going to see the White Sox pen for at least 4 innings.
2-2, and he got him.
Yeah, he was able to do what he couldn't do to Manny, which is to throw a breaking ball, quality breaking ball underneath the strike zone, and it was a good one. So he takes a little bit off. Look at our arms and legs. And Mark Trumbo trying to pick up the speed of the ball, just couldn't do it underneath the bat head.
So it'll take a 2-out base hit to get something on the board.
Well, he struck out the side in the 4th. Started off striking out Joseph, so his last 5 outs are for strikeouts, but a lot of pitches to do that.
Adam bounced into a double play his last at bat. He's also walked. Center field, Austin Jackson is there. He's got it for the out, and Sale works out of it. So 2 walks, but 2 left through 5. White Sox with a 6-0 lead. Well, as part of the Orioles Community Heroes program, the Orioles honoring today Brian Bowles, who is Director of Development and Community Relations at St. Francis Academy in East Baltimore. Mr. Bowles is a graduate of the Academy, began his career there as a teacher and as the baseball coach. He's helped numerous students move on from the Academy to become collegiate student athletes. He also serves as Executive Director of the Books and Baseball Summer Camp program in Baltimore City. Using life lessons he learned through the game of baseball, Mr. Bowles inspires all of us in the community for his commitment and his dedication to better the futures of Baltimore's youth, and we thank him on behalf of the Orioles. Always nice to see when you get involved in your own neighborhoods. It's so special. Line off the glove of Pedro Alvarez, who's now in the game at third, and heading to second base with a double will be Austin Jackson, who has a 2-hit game with a couple of doubles.
Yeah, well, they encourage Vance Worley to use the curveball, and Austin Jackson says, I'm all with it, because he just smokes it, and then you're off the line. The ball really hit hard. Little top spin, maybe side spin, because he wallops it. Looks like it's going down into the corner till Pedro gets a little leather on it, but he gets by him for a double. So a couple of doubles for Austin Jackson last couple of times up.
Manny moves to shortstop with Pedro now at third. J.J. Hardy out of the game. Strike taken by Adam Eaton. Hit by a pitch by Ubaldo last inning. Chicago sent 10 men to the plate and scored 5 runs in the 5th.
Yeah, he had him 0-2, just tried to come up and in, and very fortunate that he didn't get hit because the ball was headed for his jaw. And he rolled the shoulder up.
1-2 on Eaton. Vance Worley trying to eat up some innings. The Orioles have a day off tomorrow, which certainly will help the bullpen. This has been a tough series. Ground ball to Scope will advance the runner. Eaton's retired, 1 away. The fans voting is now open for the 2016 All-Star Game at Orioles.com/voteorange. Fans can vote up to 35 times per email address with a maximum of 5 votes in a 24-hour period. Now vote at least 5 times and select the O's as your favorite team, and you'll automatically be entered for a chance to win an All-Star Game jersey signed by the Orioles All-Stars. Plus, if you vote at least 20 times and select the O's as your favorite team, you'll receive a promo code for a buy one get one offer for any regularly priced ticket for the July series against the Rockies. So vote early, vote often, vote orange. Visit Orioles.com/voteorange today.
So they all high-fived Adam Eaton for getting the runner over. And now you see the Oriole infield in. They're already down by 6. Those are the little things that you try to do. Make Sanchez a better hit. Jake Petrichka. Saw him the other night.
Orioles have the infield in. They want to cut this run down if possible. Already trailing 6-0.
Makes Sanchez a better hitter and makes it tougher on Vance Worley.
Jackson at third with 1 down.
A little extra, looking for a strikeout. And now he's got to throw something over with Abreu waiting on deck.
And he got him. High fastball. So big out for Worley and 2 away.
Yeah, you're kind of hoping a young hitter will chase, and that's exactly what he does. 88. Maybe a little extra. He's throwing some balls down. You elevate the ball and the frame of reference as far as your eyes, and he throws it right by him. Unfortunately, if you pitch around Abreu, you got Frazier standing there. Just a much more difficult lineup this year.
Whoa, knocked down by Worley. Hit him on the backside, and he gets the out. So the leadoff double does not score. Worley says, I'm okay. Birds come to bat in the 6th, down by 6. to you by Hair Cuttery, home of the Smile Back Guarantee. No small print, just big smiles. We have a lot of big smiles. All the youngsters here at the ballpark today, they get to run the bases after the game. Brother and sister, they are waving on cue and smiling on cue. Very cute. Love to see kids having fun.
Love to see him at the ballpark. So Chris Sale with two lefties, Davis and now Alvarez, are going to pitch here in the 6th inning. And, you know, maybe a younger pitcher or a less accomplished pitcher would probably be gone. Petrichka still throwing out in their bullpen. So you'll match up. I'm sure he told him, hey, I'm feeling fine. And the Orioles said, well, he's probably going to be leaving anyway. Let's give him a goodbye message. It's been tough. He's been good.
Center field, and it falls in for a base hit. So the Orioles get a blue hit.
Yeah, a little bit up on the bat head. You want to match up again, dominating left-handers. It's all about getting the pitch that in the middle of the plate, that is inside middle. What about Chris Davis? He has done a nice job over the last 5-6 games of not overswinging.
By the way, the reason J.J. Hardy left the game, he fouled the ball off his foot. So on this damp day, J.J. back in the trainer's room. Here's Pedro's first at bat. Takes down and in. Alvarez has really turned it on. 7 for his last 12. A .583 clip with a home run and 2 RBIs. Ball 2.
Well, he had 4 hits last night. He got what, four hits in his first 12 games. Didn't play a whole lot, and then got multiple hits the last 3 times he's had a chance to play.
Laurie bobbles, takes the out at first. It's an adventure at second base with Laurie, but at least he got an out, 1 away. Well, against left-handed starters, here are the best records against lefties, and the Orioles have gone 5-1. They've defeated Price, Perez, Moore, Danks, and Rodon. But today, facing the best in Chris Sale, and here's Robin Ventura, and that's going to do it. So he'll go 5 1/3. The pitch count at 112. So Sale will leave and hope the bullpen, which is the best in the major leagues, can hold the 6-run lead. So Sale leaves. Petrichka coming on in the 6th.
Disappointed in the pitch count. First time this year he has not gone 7 or more innings. Well, the Orioles make him work, but now up to the bullpen. Good chance to win with a 6-0 lead. And again, the 4 walks are a little bit higher. Jacob Petrichka, that home run that he threw against Manny Machado earlier in this 4-game series, first one he's thrown since June. So that obviously the ERA goes up. Hard thrower, fastball from 93 to 95, and he's got a changeup and then a hard slider. So again, as you mentioned, the best bullpen numerically in the American League, and he's a part of it.
Well, the bullpen will have to get 11 outs because of the Orioles working the pitch count against Sale. Petruchka, 3 of 6 inherited, have been stranded. He inherits Davis at second base for Nolan Reimold. Popped to short and a strikeout. Ball 1 gets away from Navarro, not far enough for Davis to advance.
Yeah, 62 games for him last year. And as we said, he hails from Minnesota, Savage, Minnesota. So this is pretty much May 1st weather up there.
It's May 1st weather here.
Well, it is, but I'm talking about similar. I think it could be a little bit damp and probably in the 50s. Somebody said like tomorrow it's going to be 70, 77, maybe 80, or then
really?
then cold by Tuesday when the Yankees come in, like their bats.
So a nice weather day on the day off, which would be nice.
Well, I don't know.
But you'd like the weather nice for Tuesday if you could get it.
Yeah. Yankees are coming. It doesn't really matter. It just whatever it is. I don't know if it's going to rain tomorrow or not.
So that means it could be a nice day for a nice long walk with the pups.
Could be.
This weather's been getting in the way of that. Can't have soggy fur.
Never want to have that.
Foul straight at the plate.
So you know the Orioles want to get on the board.
Reimold 0 for 2 head-to-head against Petruchka. Limited at-bats. Well, from 3-0 to 3-2 on Nolan. Just got a piece again.
Yeah, a little two-seamer that he keeps hitting on top. Probably chased the ball 4 on the 3-1 pitch. That certainly was a strike. You know, a lot of times if you're a starter, you pitch to the scoreboard. You figure you're not going to walk anybody with a 6-run lead. I think relievers are a little different. They're so used to coming in where you don't have 6-run leads, even though that is the case. So you'll throw whatever you think you can get over, and it could be anything.
Here's the 7th pitch to Reimold. Ground ball towards the middle. It hits the base and gets on through for a base hit. Davis will score. The Orioles are on the board. Nice at bat there for Nolan Reimold. And he picks up the RBI. 6-1.
Well, healthy and using the middle of the field, and it just hits it right back from where it was thrown. And you can see Petruchka, he falls off, and the ball right up the mound, hits the bag a little bit. And then Chris Davis striding around third to make it 6-1. I mean, the game is early in the sense that they still, with a 5-run lead, of course, they get to bat 2, but they need to get 9 outs or make it 8 outs. I'm sorry, make it more than that. 11 outs.
And Petruchka falls behind Scope.
And all it takes is one reliever, and they have a lot of good ones out there to have a little bit of an off day. And doesn't have to be a lot, you know, maybe another base hit or a walk. Do a little White Sox damage, you loop a ball in, and next thing you know, you got crooked number.
Foul tip.
Yeah, there's the two-seamer.
Fans are certainly into the game today. Damp conditions. That gets away from Navarro. He doesn't know where it is. And Reimold's thinking about going to third. He's going to try. Here's the throw, and he makes it. Outstanding base running there by Reimold as he picked up Navarro. Had no idea where the ball went.
I just couldn't pick it up. You got to assume it's behind you. But he didn't really lay much leather on it. Heads up base running. And the ball skips. Now he's looking around, and you got to take the helmet off, and heads up base running is Nolan, who has very good speed for a big guy. It's just bouncing right around the plate. Well, he turns left, and the ball went right.
3-1.
And they looks like they're going to get somebody up in their bullpen, and good sinker.
Matt Albers.
Yeah, he had his 30 consecutive scoreless inning scheme. Hadn't given up a run since August 5th last year. That was broken last night.
And he gets scoped.
Yeah, good movement. Late life in the zone. So Jonathan's going to chase it. He thinks he's got it tracked. Let's this ball move. Probably about 6 to 8 inches of movement. Two-seamer just dives down and in. Jonathan swings over.
Well, here's Caleb trying to get Reimold in with that second run. Make it a 4-run game. Caleb does not yet have an RBI on the young season, which is now beginning its second month. And he's 0 for 2 today, and 2 for his last 14. Ball 2. So Petrichka has fallen behind each of the 3 batters he's faced.
Yeah, I think it would be safe to say he doesn't have his best command this afternoon.
Ball 3. Caleb has faced Petrichka only once, and he's 0 for 1 against him. Ball 4, 4-pitch walk. Don Cooper on the phone to the bullpen to see if Albers is ready.
Yeah, that's what he said. He's ready. Yeah, you know, the problem, if you pitch to the scoreboard, if you're a reliever, that means you're probably not going to throw your best stuff. If you aim it, I never found that. And here comes Robin Ventura, probably thinking this. I got a guy that just doesn't know where the ball is going, and I do have a guy that's been on a roll out in the bullpen. And I want somebody who's going to pitch to contact. Alber's more of a sinker baller, and he's going to go to the bullpen.
So Petrichka will leave. Albers comes on. Orioles trying to battle back here in the 6th. Weekend next weekend at Oriole Park. Now it's Saturday when the Birds take on the Athletics at 7:05. First 10,000 female fans 18 and over receive the Orioles canvas tote presented by MLB Network. And then on Mother's Day, first 10,000 female fans 18 and over receive the Orioles Infinity Scarf. Plus, after the game next Sunday, all the kids 14 and under can run the bases. For your tickets, Orioles.com, 888-848-BIRD.
So Matt Albers comes on. As we mentioned, it was 30 consecutive appearances, 33 innings, hadn't given up a run since the 4th of August. 30 games for the White Sox last year. Sinker baller with a little bit of slider, changeup, ground ball pitcher. By what, about 8%? Almost 50-50 this year. He actually got hurt in a fight early on last year between the Royals and the White Sox back end of April. Sent to the minors, disabled list.
So 2 on and 2 out with a run in. Here's Joey Rickard. Ball 1. Rickard is the key man here to keep this going. The Thunder comes behind him. I was thinking lumber and thunder, and it came out that
day game after a night game, Jim. I know the
center field. Jackson back on it, still going. He has it in range and makes the catch against the wall. So Rickard gave it a ride. After all that, the Orioles settle for a run. We'll head to the 7th, 6-1 Chicago. Time brought to you by Miller Lite. Let's go back to the top of the 4th. Todd Frazier leading off. Deflects off the glove of Machado. Hardy alertly grabs it with a lunge, and then the bounce throw to first, and Chris Davis on the back end with the scoop to complete the putout. Yep, they all enjoyed that one.
Yeah, except Todd Frazier. When you saw all facets of the game, you know, the fact that Van even touches it, and then toughest and longest throw for a shortstop in the hole, and then Chris Davis does what he usually does, picks it over at first. That's how you get an out on that type of play. Vance Worley, I'll tell you what, he's going to make himself very valuable for this bullpen, especially if Tyler Wilson is starting, because he can pitch multiple innings. Can take one off the rear end and come back out and pitch. Makes him even more valuable.
Strike 1 to Todd Frazier. He was hit by a pitch and scored in the rally in the 5th inning. Ubaldo today 4 walks and a couple of hit batters. And a high pop-up, shallow right. Davis backs out there, and he lunges and makes the catch. An ice cream cone, but he held on.
Yeah, Scopey,
I think he's now saying, where were you, John?
Right. Jonathan wasn't going to help. Rickard was coming in just in case. Hoping that Jonathan's going to call him off, but stays with it. It just gives you another idea how athletic Chris Davis is. I think it's easy to kind of categorize him because he's won the home run title 2 out of the last 3 years as just a slugger. He can play right field. He can play third base. He can play pretty much anywhere. He can pitch. We saw that up in Fenway.
What I want to see, did you notice in Tampa last week when the team was warming up before BP playing catch, the knuckleball that J.J. Hardy has?
Well,
is he the emergency pitcher this year?
Even if I didn't notice it, Buck Showalter told me about it, and a lot of other people. Not T.J. McFarland, but Ryan Flaherty. He would probably be the backup catcher, except he's at AAA Norfolk. Who will it be now?
Base hit for Cabrera.
Finally. Well, they got a little looper, but he's saying I finally hit one hard and they didn't catch it. Yeah. A flamenco dancer applauding himself.
Who would be the emergency catcher now that Ryan is not here?
Well, hopefully they won't.
No, I agree. But...
Well, maybe Michael Gibbons, former infielder.
Hey, he does it all.
Exactly.
Brett Laurie has a single, a home run, and he has walked, so a perfect day going. Breaking ball snaps in there. Chatting with Vance Worley earlier this year, and as camp broke, he did earn a spot in the rotation. That ball's fair down the line past Pedro Alvarez. Long run for Reimold. Cabrera can run. He's going to be held at third. Reimold did a good job getting to it. So Laurie gets a double. He's out there saluting himself. Second and third and one down.
Well, I told you about the 14 home runs as he just top spins a double right inside the bag. No way that Alvarez is going to catch it. But with the 14 home runs, and it started early when he came up to Toronto. He hit a home run to right center on a fastball, hung a curveball, hit in the bullpen. The batting average, well, 1 out of 4, right around 250. But it's pretty productive because of the home run power. Yeah, I thought Brett Laurie, when he came up, as the infield will creep in here, there's a good pitch, and that he would be probably one of those impact players where with Toronto he'd steal bases, and he had injury problems, and then, as you mentioned, he got traded for Josh Donaldson, who ended up being the MVP. So certainly a great trade for the Jays. And then again traded again to the White Sox.
He sure does call attention to himself on the field.
Well, he always has done that. And
oh, 2 on Sands. A little low. And talking about Worley, he earned the 5th spot in the rotation. And chatting with him in Philadelphia, he started that final exhibition game. And he said, obviously, if you came up as a starter, that's what you want to do. And he gets a big strikeout there for the second out. But Jim, if you look at his career, he's had better success pitching in this role in relief. In his career ERAs, you look at the strikeout out of the bullpen is 2.66.
yeah, well, he can do everything. And I think he just is very happy he's in the major leagues. And I don't mean that in any derogatory sense. I think just happy to be here. Was happy to be with Pittsburgh, got sent out, pitched well as a starter, and then he came back. They shoved him in the bullpen, but as you mentioned, he pitched very well last year. But he wouldn't be the first guy that can spot start, and also, you know, back in the day, so to speak, when I pitched, Davey Leonard, you know, he was a guy that went 66 and 21 in the minor leagues, but when he came to the big leagues, he was in the bullpen. But he was one of the better spot starters you could ever see. And he embraced that role because he was happy to be on the team.
Well, this is a valuable role, not only for keeping this game as is, but saving arms for the next game. One and one on Deoner Navarro. 2 on and 2 out. Center field. Jones broke back, comes in. He's got a play, and Worley gets out of it. Second and third and 1 out, and the Sox can't score. Seventh inning stretch at the ballpark, 6-1 Chicago. Royal Farms, ATMs are surcharge free. Get your cash for nothing. Bank or credit card fees may still apply. And by American Standard Heating and Air. It's their all-star sales event with up to $1,100 in instant rebates or 0% APR for 36 months. Well, the White Sox holding on to a 6-1 lead, 5 runs in the 5th, and welcome into the booth Jim and Jim. And unfortunate the way this game has turned. Orioles still have a chance. They have 3 more at-bats. But it brings to focus how important last night's game was, one that got away late. Orioles on the verge of going up 3-0 in the series, winning the series, knowing they had to face Sale today.
Well, you're right. I mean, Chris Sale comes in at 5-0, so he's only given up 1.66 runs. He pitched pretty well. Probably maybe a little disappointed in the fact that he walked 4 people. But meanwhile, if you're Ubaldo Jimenez, you know, have to pitch real well because he's Chris Sale.
Right.
But the last night's game, these are the White Sox. They came in winning 6 in a row. The Orioles won the first 2. This was a huge game for both teams, and I don't know what's going to happen, but the White Sox probably like their position with a 6-1 lead here in the 7th.
Yeah, the 5-run 5th inning broke this game open. Orioles got 1, but they stranded 2 in the last inning, and there's Zach Duke, the lefty, getting ready. Orioles have 2 lefties in the lineup now with Alvarez in place of J.J. Hardy. And as we explained last inning, Jim, here comes the thunder for the Orioles. The thundering lumber part of the lineup. Manny, Trumbo, Jones, and Davis. Manny's got a perfect day going. 2 singles and a walk. He had a 12-pitch walk against Sale in the 5th inning. And another foul ball.
Well, what Manny said, you know, came into this series, what, 0 for 15. He said, I went back to the basics, did some early work, tee work. Such a gifted young player.
He's 8 for 15 on this homestand in a 4-game hitting streak. Popped up shallow right. Eaton moves in on it. And he's got it for the out. So Alvarez has retired each batter he has faced and 1 away. Fans, you can follow Orioles baseball live with the MLB.com at-bat app. Stay up to the moment at any moment with Game Day. Live game video highlights, StatCast, news, and more. Download MLB.com at-bat, the #1 app for live baseball on your phone or tablet.
Yeah, the guy that Chris Sale's really pitched to and came in giving him trouble is Mark Trumbo, who we're seeing right now. You know, he came at what, 5 for 11, a couple of doubles and a home run, and when he needed some outs. First 2 batters on in the 3rd, he made some great pitches to Mark to get him to strike out. There's another slider right at the knees. I think Mark trying to convince the American League umpires I have high knees, and you keep calling the balls to just, you know, you're going to have to go to the Adam Jones pads where you bring the pants up.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah.
Adam has that look going again today. Mr. Umpire, it's a simple question of anatomy. My knees are here.
Well, that was supposed to be one of the ways that they were going to try to increase offense in the major leagues this season, which is to ask the umpires to maybe raise that strike from just maybe the little fold below the knees to right at the knees, so maybe the ball would be more hittable. I haven't really seen a lot of that.
You know, the thing about that I just don't understand, that if you're going to be able to just say, okay, we're changing the strike zone, why have a rule book? There is a strike zone in the baseball rule book.
Well, it is, but it's always
never
been
followed.
different. Yeah, when I played it with the American League, at least early on, and there's a bubble, and that ball right on the corner, he thinks it's outside. So it's a frustrating day. You know, wanting to get hits, having good numbers, and then this ball, he thinks it's outside, and it's certainly right on the corner or off it. But when I first started playing, they had the outside protector, so the umpires in the American League were more upright, so it was a higher strike zone. The National League had the protective chests where, like they have now, and they would be a little bit lower, so the strike zone was a little bit lower, and you'd get into the World Series and you get a National League umpire, and they'd try to be fair.
Adam Jones deep to right field. That chases Eaton, and that is off the wall. It's in play. It's a fair ball, and Adam thought about 2 and put on the brakes.
Well,
down by 5.
They do all these zone ratings and defensive run save. Eaton's already got 13, and that would have been 14 right there if he tried to run. You get a 4-game series, and this is a good pitch. Adam again trying to use the whole field, and boy, slices it just like he did last night off the wall. But tonight it's going to be a single because you're down by 5, and you don't want to get thrown out.
Yeah, when Adam starts going to right field, he heats up. Zach Duke coming on in the 7th. Balloons.com, over 2 million vehicles sold and counting. Well, runs scored leaders in the American League. The Orioles are 3rd with 109. Boston, as Jim pointed out, 126. Then the Tigers, Texas, and the Blue Jays as well. And the Orioles down by 5 runs, have a man on, but 2 men down in the 7th. Orioles have averaged 4.7 runs per game and 3rd in the league in runs scored.
Zach Duke, we saw him last night. Chris Davis game tying double up the gap in left center field. Not a hard thrower, doesn't mean you can't pitch well. You can see almost a strikeout per inning. Doesn't walk a whole lot of guys, and then righties and lefties, and see a ground ball pitcher at 65%.
Breaking ball in the inside corner.
Yeah, last night he started him off with a slider, just like he did right there, and then he threw a fastball more on the inside part of the plate at 89. He swung through it, and then eventually he would get a ball out over the plate, and he would really hit it crisply.
Down the line, hooks foul, just foul. So Adam will have to get back to first.
Yeah, we showed you how the Red Sox are leading the league with what, 121 runs. Guess who's last?
New York Yankees.
Yes.
Toronto beat Tampa Bay 5-1. Tulowitzki had a 3 RBI game. So the Blue Jays are now 12-14, while the Rays are 11-13. Deep foul down the left side. Yankees and Red Sox are the Sunday night game. If the Orioles don't come back here, every team in the division will have at least 10 losses, as the Orioles would then be 14-10. Boston is 14-10 before they play the Yankees tonight. Davis down in the count, 0-2. Two for 3 against Duke with a home run. Head to head. And he got him. Davis down on strikes. That ends the threat. Base hit and a man left. Through 7. White Sox with a 6-1 lead. Tomorrow, but are back at it Tuesday. The Yankees come to town for the first of 3. Good pitching matchup in game 1. Chris Tillman against Luis Severino. Our coverage on MASN begins at 6:30 with those extra presented by Southwest, followed by game coverage at 7 o'clock. We've got all the access you need right here on MASN.
Well, a little bit what we talked about. They've lost 4 in a row, 5 of 6, 12 of 16, and then again they're not scoring a whole lot of runs, and then they get David Price tonight. So. And they're 14th in ERA and 15th in runs. And you hope it continues. Only because you got to play them.
Right. And you got to try to take advantage of teams when they're down. Because when you run into these series against good teams like the White Sox, you know it's going to be a battle. 1-1. Worley's doing a real good job. 2 1/3 scoreless since coming on in relief of Ubaldo.
Well, O'Day pitches 2 days in a row. Well, Britton with the ankle injury, so the 8-man bullpen is down to what, 6. Don't want to be using anybody in a 6-1 or the 6-0 when he came in.
Deep short for Manny. Makes it look easy. 1 away.
He does. You know, I saw Dean Albany, who lives down the street from me in Little Italy here, longtime Orioles scout, was a minor league pitcher with Milwaukee. He said when Manny came up, he said, boy, he can play anywhere. And we've seen that. You know, came up as a shortstop. They moved him to a third. on the run. I just don't see that kind of arm strength from any infielder very often.
Adam Jones critiquing the play. As Adam came up as a shortstop in the Seattle organization before he was moved to the outfield. Maybe telling Manny how he would have done it.
Oh, nice little late backdoor cutter. Well, we saw Adam, remember the kick save he had up in Tampa Bay where he came in, the ball kind of went off, he kicked it with his hip and then picked it up and kind of underarmed it into second base to hold him to a single.
Yep.
He said that's the way I played shortstop. Whatever you have to do, make the plays.
He still occasionally will take ground balls at shortstop during BP because he says it's good for his hands. Because in the infield, the ball gets on you so quickly.
Yeah, you just get an idea that Vance Worley, and again, not overpowering, right there at 90, that'll be the top. But in and out, cut it. Nice little road numbers for Adam Eaton. Oh.
Got him the chase, 2 away.
The wiffle ball, the fastball. Watch this ball run out of the zone. Hey, Adam Eaton, you know, he's been covering the outside corner all series. He thinks it's going to be on the corner. It starts there and then runs right off the plate with the best velocity of the afternoon. And of course, if you're out on the mound, you don't let them know that, but you're kind of happy when you get a good hitter to be that off balanced.
Carlos Sanchez, RBI and a ground out back in the big 5-run 5th inning. Chicago in that inning, they loaded the bases 3 different times. And they did a good job of putting the bat on the ball. There were several blue pits in there that contributed to the rally. Orioles have been hurt today by the strikeout. Birds have struck out 9 times. Sanchez works the count to 3-0.
Yeah, he won't be swinging here, but he ought to into this count as Vance Worley tries to get back. He ought to get some good pitches to hit because of who's on deck. There's a strike. I'm going to get another one of those just outside third of the plate. Start it for the middle with the kind of movement that Vance has and make him put the ball in play with Jose Abreu on deck. But he can't do it.
So a 2-out walk. First walk issued by Worley, the 5th walk the Sox have received. Buck on the phone to the bullpen. So Abreu does bat with a man on. Now Worley did work in the game last night. He faced 4 batters to get the 1 out needed in the 9th inning. He came on after Zach was hurt.
Well, he gave up the hit to Abreu after Eaton bunted his way on off of Zach Britton. And it was he just took a cutter out over the plate, and as we've seen in this series, just sliced it into right field like that.
Another base hit for Abreu to right field.
Well, if you do that often enough, what you do, and sometimes this is how you hit home runs, and we know he can hit home runs. He's hit 66 coming into the season the last 2 years, his first 2 years in the big leagues. You get tired of giving up the single or the double to right field, you pitch in, and that's when you get the turn on balls. It's a fabulous approach.
6 hits in this series to right field for Abreu. Here's Todd Frazier. Good to see that he was able to stay in the game after he was hit by a pitch on the hand. Just a fastball that ran in on him.
That left hand right on the bottom of it.
Strike at the knees. He's already had a great baseball life, and he's only 30. Little League World Series champion as a youngster in Toms River, New Jersey. Then he played college ball at Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, drafted in the 1st round by Cincinnati, so the honor of being a 1st-round pick. And the Reds traded him to Chicago. This was nothing more than a financial move.
Yeah.
looking to rebuild.
Well, they got some young players and they need it. You know, Cincinnati not playing very well.
But this guy is a gamer.
And they get him for this year and next year, unless they go long term. And there's just it's almost right out of the glove of Caleb Joseph.
I was waiting for Jerry Davis to see if that was in fact tipped, and his arms never moved. Then eventually he said, yeah, oh, by the way, foul ball.
Well, talk about letting the ball travel. It was almost by him, and he goes, I better. It was just a little cut fastball, a little movement pitch.
So the count holds 0-2. And he got him. So Vance Worley comes back. A walk, a hit, 2 left. We head to the bottom of the 8th. Still 6-1 Chicago. Madison is brought to you by Southwest. Transparency, low fares, nothing to hide. And by Ocean City, Maryland. Let us show you a good time in Ocean City, Maryland. Book now at ococean.com. The shirts are for sale. Oriole fans love them. Bottom of the 8th, O's down by 5. Haven't been able to get that high pressure inning against the Sox today. First sale was that good, even with base runners allowed in the high pitch count. Orioles had 9 base runners off Sale and managed 1 run.
Just clutch pitching when he needed to be at the key outs. You know, it's like playing tennis. Sometimes pretty even, but how do you play the big points? He played the big points real well today.
Strike 1 to Pedro Alvarez, batting for a second time. He took over for J.J. Hardy. J.J. left fouling a ball off his foot. Duke got Chris Davis on a strikeout to end the 7th. Stays on for the 8th. Alvarez swings through a slider. Chicago bullpen 1.69 ERA. Best in the bigs. Just an amazing start for their relievers.
And for the Orioles, the first 3 games, Dave Robertson wasn't even available because of the bereavement leave. So he's back. We saw Nate Jones come in last night and pitch very well, getting the save. There's the Oriole closer, talking to Mark Trumbo. I think that, or was that Mark Quinn?
I think that was Mark Quinn.
Well, so is Zach Britton's look-alike. Maybe not from there. Probably walking better than Zach.
Zach's foot is immobilized. Bouncer to second for Laurie. Plays the hop, gets his man, and 1 away. Well, that was the key play in last night's game. Tie game, 9th inning, 2 outs, nobody on. And Adam Eaton with the drag bunt. And Britton trying to make a play and end the inning.
Yeah, he makes a nice play to get to it, and in doing it, I think when he loses his balance right about there, maybe a little pressure on the left ankle. There's so many ligaments and capsules in there. Richie Manziel's the one.
Well, here's Britton before the game commenting on the injury.
Yeah, I was telling Buck I was trying to win a Gold Glove, so I think I'm going to shut that down from now on.
So it is haste to make a play. He came up injured.
Well, it's your competitive nature.
Absolutely.
I mean, Eden said, you know, he's filthy, nasty. Why would I try to hit him? And he bunted his way on. As it turned out, he scored the winning run on the Abreu base hit. The night before, the game ended on a Great Britain play. So Zach has not only been one of the best closers, he's really worked on his fielding. So we'll back off a little bit.
Reimold down on strikes.
Yeah, Zach Duque came up with the Pirates as a starting pitcher and didn't have great success. So you reinvent yourself. You can use your same pitches. Well, last year lefties hit him at 181. So that means he can match up. And you can still make a nice living out in the bullpen in Major League Baseball. You can be very effective.
Breaking balls low to scope.
Yeah, I think the important thing, just think, I mean, it's kind of like winning the lottery if you're a manager and you have a lefty that can get both lefties and righties out.
Nice hop for Frazier, gets it across in a 3-up 3-down inning for Zach Duque. Through 8 at Camden Yards, Chicago has the lead. Care First to vote for today's Care First Fearless Player of the Game. Live fearless with a name trusted for over 75 years. Care First Blue Cross Blue Shield. Well, Chris Davis certainly will get some support. Outstanding defensive game. Manny Machado has a couple of base hits, and don't forget about Vance Worley, who went 3 1/3 scoreless and now gives way to Brian Mattis.
Yeah, Brian on for an out last night. Fastball 89, 92. That's where he'll max out. Breaking ball, curveball, slider, and then an occasional changeup. 20 days on the disabled list, or actually put on April 3rd. It came back off the list on April 23rd with a lower back injury.
And Robertson back with the team off the bereavement list. Looks like he'll come on anyway. Needs some work.
Well, they have an off day. They're looking forward to that. If you look what the last off day they had, April 12th.
A long time ago.
Yeah, I think 19 straight games. So he can get his work. They'll hopefully, if you're a White Sox rooter and play for them, he'll get his work. He'll get the win. And he'll get a day off where he'll be ready, because the Red Sox, I think, come to Chicago. and the mighty Red Sox, and then the Twins. How about Rick Porcello, 5-0?
Figured it out. The sinker sinking again.
Well, they signed him a 4-year extension for about $84 million, and he was already making close to 20. So with an option year, so it was a pretty big investment. I'm sure they're happy to see that.
And there's another base hit for Cabrera, this time batting right-handed. 3 for 4 with a walk.
Well, we were talking about Zach Duke, and he gets right-handers out pretty well. Lefties, again, exceptionally well, and just gives your bullpen a lot more depth and breadth as far as being able to not have to lefty righty. And boy, the last 2 years it was a little bit hard this year with the injury to Brian Mattis, but the Orioles have gone out of their way to get Brian back to where he was when he first came up, where he was very effective against right-handed batters.
Here's Laurie. A perfect day for Brett Laurie. He has a single, he has a double, he has a home run, and he's walked. In the dirt, 2-0. Right-handers are now 3 for 5 against Mattis.
Yeah, the body of work, not a whole lot because of the injury. But of all the Oriole bullpenners, he's the one that struggled the most. Just hasn't got a chance to work as much as normally you would have probably been in, probably 8 to 10 games to this point. But a valuable part because he does match up very well against lefties.
4-pitch walk, puts 2 on with none out. Well, and the other thing is, with the injury in the spring, he missed the majority of the spring games where he would have been able to work on his.
Well, the last 2 years before this spring, he was a starter. They would start him till the last 2 weeks, so he would get to build up arm strength. And the whole idea was to be able to pitch better against righties, so you could use him for multiple innings.
Here's Jerry Sands, who's DHing. There's a strike. So Laurie comes up the triple shy of the cycle. Jose Valentin of the White Sox had a cycle against the O's April 27th of 2000. And in the at bat to try to get the triple, he's walked on 4 pitches. Avisail Garcia sitting it out again with the hamstring issue that occurred the other night in the final out of the game. So Sands is getting back-to-back starts. Drove in 2 runs with a single, a soft single in the 5th. And Mattis can't find the strike zone.
Yeah, it's very hard when you're not pitching a lot to stay sharp. Just think, they give you, the pitching mound's 10 inches high. You want to hover over the pitching rubber as long as you can, get the arm up and throw downhill. And when you're struggling, your body goes, your arm never catches up. It's a little bit better. And it's almost impossible when you can't stay over the pitching rubber and get a kind of a load position to throw the ball down in the strike zone.
2-2 is a base hit to left field. Cabrera is going to be held by Joe McEwing, the third baseman. Reimold got in on it quickly.
Yeah, so a changeup right there. It wasn't a bad pitch, but just up enough where Sands, who, as we mentioned, came through a number of organizations, Cleveland, the Dodgers, as a home run guy. So he's got a pretty good bat speed, and he's just strong enough to hit the ball just up a little bit, hard enough to get it into left field.
Well, this today by the Sox has been a clinic in how putting the ball in play can lead to good things.
Oh, I still remember when Pete Incaviglia played for the Rangers and Bobby Valentine was the manager, and he struck out 175, 80, 85 times. He goes, nothing ever happens when that happens. Like the game stops. And you're right, that today it started with Navarro just poking a single, good changeup by Baldo Jimenez up the middle for that 5-run inning in the 5th. And then they would have a series of really good at bats, and 5 runs later, 1-0 is 6-0.
And soft hits count. Weak ground balls to left field that finds the hole counts. So you put the ball in play and good things may happen. Chicago has 13 hits in this game, and they've also drawn 5 walks and hit a couple of batters due to Baldo. Reimold circling under it. Cabrera's going to tag. Here comes Cabrera. Here comes the throw towards the plate. It's cut off by Alvarez up near the pitcher's mound. So there's a sac fly and an RBI for Navarro. It is 7-1. Of course, the White Sox, they are so adept at getting that runner in from third. That is their 9th sacrifice fly as a team.
Now you can talk about it. You can talk about on-base percentage. You can talk about not striking out. You can talk about situational hitting. But you got to do it. And a lot of it, it's your approach. You know, you come up with the bases loaded. If you're getting a little bit avaricious, greedy, you may think, okay, long ball. But the good hitters, they put the ball in play. Fly ball scores a run. You know, maybe you get it over the infield and you dump one in, or you hit a line drive the other way. It's just your approach. And it's not only a physical thing. I think it's very much mental. Like when you pitch, do you want to try to strike everybody out? That doesn't work. A lot of times pitching to contact can be there's Alex Avila on the right, who will eventually get back hamstring DL. I said, how'd you hurt it? He said, well, stretching a single into a single. In other words, wasn't really trying to do anything, just hurt his hamstring. And he's one of their catchers.
That's a tough injury for a catcher. All the squatting. Now 1 out. Laurie held at second, Sands at first on that sac fly by Navarro. Slowly hit the short. Manny to second out there. No throw back to first. Just hit too slowly to try to turn 2. So Sands is forced 2 away. Laurie ends up at third. And Mattis allowed the first 3 runners to reach. 1 has scored. He now has 2 men out. So Laurie at third with Jackson now at first after the force. And here's Adam Eaton, who's been on base once when he was hit by a pitch in the 5th inning. Adam Eaton acquired in the big 3-team trade between the White Sox, Arizona, and the Angels, now in his 3rd season with the Sox. And as part of that deal, Mark Trumbo went from the Angels to Arizona. And then last year, Arizona traded Trumbo to Seattle, became an Oriole in another trade. So Mark has been wanted several places. Eaton has found a home in Chicago.
Yeah, you look at the Brian Mattis in his career coming into the game. Righties hit him at 300, lefties at 206. Again, trying to transition back to where he can get both lefties and righties out.
Foul back out of play. 2-2 on Adam Eaton.
Yeah, last year lefties only hit him 184. And the numbers actually, he had a pretty good year against right-handers. They were like at 244. So 56 points lower than his lifetime number. But it is tough when you're hurt. You know, spring training, everybody says it's too long, but not. You get any kind of injury, boy, it just allows you to get your arm strength and confidence.
Well, and especially with the injury he had to the lower back, there was the period where he couldn't do anything. It was just, you have to rest. It has to heal.
Well, your overall body conditioning, and of course he's, you know, the last 4 or 5 years been working with Brady Anderson, just for general conditioning and getting stronger.
Ground ball to short. There's Manny. He'll run to the base and force Jackson for the final out here in the ninth. Sox add a run. We head to the bottom of the ninth. Last chance for the O's. 7-1 Chicago.
For O's extra post game, Rick, it looks like that 5-run fifth inning by the White Sox took control of this game.
I know with Chris Sale out on the mound, that's not the right way to go. Ubaldo issued 4 walks and 2 free passes, made it a tough inning with 3 flares that fell in too. Big battle for the Orioles into the bottom of the ninth, down 7-1.
We're going to go back upstairs now to Jim Hunter, Jim Palmer for the bottom half of the ninth inning. O's extra post game will begin right after the conclusion of today's game.
All right, Tom and Rick, thanks so much as we head to the ninth. Orioles have 3 outs to work with, down by 6 now with that add-on run by the Sox and the return of the closer, David Robertson.
Well, yeah, he's very good. The Orioles certainly know about him because he came over, he pitched with the Yankees. And again, I mean, one of the better curveballs. He's got one of the better cutters. And they can throw that 92, 93. So off to a real good start for them. Pretty much a lot of history with most of the Orioles because of, again, the Yankee connection. It's almost 50-50 whether it's going in the air or not, but he's a strikeout pitcher. Funny you sit all those years next to Mariano Rivera, wouldn't you? Even if you didn't try to throw a cutter, the ball would cut.
Well, when he became a free agent, the Yankees really didn't do much to try to retain him, and the White Sox were aggressive, so he took the guaranteed money and went to Chicago.
Yeah, they replaced him with Andrew Miller, and they already had Dellin Betances. And of course, also Aroldis Chapman, who actually, I guess, is eligible to come off the DL, the suspension, on May 9th.
Here's Caleb Joseph. Rickard and Machado will follow.
And there's the cutter. Normally it's about 3-4 mile per hour harder than that.
He last worked on the 27th. And then went on the bereavement list the next day.
And then he falls down on the second pitch, so he'll take a walk.
So his last appearance was Wednesday. Caleb 0 for 2. He's also drawn a walk. Fouled off down the right side.
Yeah, he struck out 86 in 63 innings his first year with the Sox. So he's a big-time strikeout guy. I think with a 7-1 lead and behind in the count, he's just figuring how can I get back into the count with a strike. And but you saw right there, even 92, that he just has good late movement because of the cut action. That misses.
Caleb, one of the few Orioles hitters who has never faced Robertson. Adam Jones has seen him the most. 21 at-bats for Adam. All those matchups when he was on the Yankees. Adam would bat 5th in this inning if it gets that far.
Yeah, and the amazing thing, after Mariano Rivera retires, he saves 39 games, and as you mentioned, they still don't sign him.
Caleb in a real battle here. Robertson is the 5th pitcher used for Chicago. And he draws a leadoff walk. Real nice at bat there for Caleb. 7 pitches, draws the walk. Here's Joey Rickard, who his last at bat with a couple of men on hit it to the warning track in deep right center field, but Austin Jackson ran it down. Warmer day, it may have carried.
They hit it really well. Probably the best power we've seen to right center field.
Joey 1 out of 3 plus a walk, so he's been on base a couple of times. And it takes ball 1. You always wonder about closers in non-save situations. The adrenaline may not be what it normally is, and plus Robertson, because he's been away from the team for 3 days, maybe a tad rusty.
And then he says, what the heck, I might as well drop off one of my best pitches, which is my curveball. I last pitched on what, Wednesday night, so it's been a while.
Two balls and a strike. It's a 6-run lead. Chicago's out hit the O's 13-7. And it's not as if the O's haven't had opportunities. Chris Sale walked 4 batters. Petrichka walked 1, so 5 walks to go with these 7 hits, but the Orioles have left 10 men on base. The Sox pitcher's doing a good job getting the big outs. Slowly hit the short. Sanchez to second there, back to first, not in time, as Rickard legs it out, but they do get the lead runner. Hit too slowly for a good chance to get 2.
And I'm just kind of wondering how long Brett Lawrie is going to be around till he gets hurt, because he stays around the bag. And right here, you know, you're not, I mean, if you know your opposition, you know there's no way. Get the ball and get out of harm's way.
Yeah, they had no chance to get Rickard there. Yes. Here's Machado.
I mean, we've seen him because he's an athletic guy. He goes up pretty well.
Yeah.
But the more you linger around the bag, I mean, of course, Mike Bordick, not that he played a lot of second base, but he's premier shortstop, would certainly tell you that about that.
Nothing at 2 on Machado.
Yeah, these are the tough at bats. When you're down by 6, got a tough pitcher on the mound, and you don't want to give away at bats. One and 2. Kind of amazing with the good start the Orioles have had. This is their 24th game. And they've already had 5 games, as Manny's called down on strikes on a good breaking ball, 2 men down, in which they have scored 2 runs or less, and today would be a 6th if they don't add a couple of runs here. Yeah, check out this curveball. He just kind of gives up. Oh, what do they call the curveball? Knee buckler. And those knees buckled. Of course, he's not the first guy. Robertson with one of the better curveballs in baseball.
Mark Trumbo now has had a tough day. 0 for 4 with 3 strikeouts. Line towards Sanchez, and it gets by him. Rickard's going to go to third. That must have been a knuckleball off the bat. Sanchez was about to play the hop, and it skipped right on by him.
Well, I think really, it might have done that, but he got jammed. And I think that, this is a young shortstop, middle infielder. And the ball does maybe knuckle, but he could have taken it back. He backstepped it and maybe picked an easier. Watch out. I mean, this is right on the fist. You can see the bat breaks, and then he chooses to try to take the short hop and couldn't handle it.
Trumbo will take it 1 for 5. Rickard ends up at third, and Adam Jones gets another at bat.
Yeah, base hit is worth a bat.
Adam is 7 for 21 against Robertson with 3 home runs. Adam falls behind 0-2. So Rickard on third. He reached on the force play, and Trumbo at first with the single.
Mark Trumbo still rubbing that back knee where he got hit by the slider from Sale, but swung at it.
0-2 the count on Adam. And down and away. Adam Jones, right center field. Jackson to it, Eaton to it. And they collide, but Jackson catches it, and the ball game is over. Oh, that was dangerous. There's Eaton, the former center fielder, going a long way. It was Austin Jackson's ball all the way. No harm done as they just graze each other. And fortunately, no injured